So, let me tell you how the end of the world started. Yeah, it was wild. The president of Korea hopped on TV and told everyone that the world was about to end. Why? Because a massive asteroid had fallen on Japan. It turned people into zombies. Not just any zombies, real ones that wanted to eat your face off. So, people totally lost it. No one knew what to do or where to go. But get this. There was one dude who was actually ready for this insane situation. Our hero, Seong-ho, was not like everybody else. Months before all this went down, he and his friends used to play a game called Sura. This game was super hard, and most folks just gave up. Even his own squad ditched him and never logged in again. Talk about betrayal, man. But our boy kept playing alone and even streamed his crazy game sessions, fighting monsters and leveling up until he was like the best of the best. After a while, he got tired of it all. One day, he took off his gaming gear and deleted every single stream he had. He just wanted a break. So, he focused on being a chef, opened a small restaurant on the first floor of the house, and even started noticing this cute girl who always came to his restaurant. She told our MC rumors on internet about the status window that popped up in front of the face, but when she tried, nothing happened. Out of curiosity, Seong-ho tried something nuts. He said, "status window" out loud, like in the game. And, dude, he almost had a heart attack because, right in front of him, a real blue menu popped up with all his stats. It was just like the game, except now he saw a new skill called Private Portal. He decided to try it out and, boom, he made a huge portal, big enough for a person. He started freaking out, wondering if this was really happening. If this were real, then maybe the whole end of the world thing from the game was coming too. That was some scary stuff. Our MC started digging through the web for info on the asteroid. He wanted to believe this couldn't be real. But everywhere he looked, there were news articles about the incoming disaster. Now, with this portal in front of him and the asteroid for real, he knew something was seriously messed up. He stood there, thinking whether he should go through the portal at all. He had no plan, no powers, and not much cash. After thinking about it for a bit, he just grabbed the only thing near him, a ladle, and stuck it into the portal to see what was there. He scooped up some dirt and realized he wasn't in some crazy game dungeon on the other side. That was actually good news, but he wondered if this portal just sent him somewhere else on Earth. He packed a bag, smart move, and told himself to stop hesitating. Then, dude just walked right into the portal. On the other side, it was like he landed in the middle of nowhere. No buildings, just open land and trees, and it was way colder than he was used to. He checked his phone. No signal. That was bad. He figured he was somewhere so remote that nobody would find him. If he got stuck here, he was basically screwed. So, to be careful, he took out a marker and marked a tree with the number 0. Smart thinking, bro. That way he wouldn't get lost. Our boy started walking, and man, he kept walking forever, and the place just seemed endless. He was starting to lose it, wishing something interesting would happen, when suddenly, this animal popped out and stared at him. It jumped at him like a beast, scaring the hell out of him. But chill, it was just a valley deer, and not some zombie monster. The crazy part? The system just told him what kind of creature it was, so he knew for sure this wasn't Earth. The deer looked at him, then just ran away. Honestly, I didn't expect it to start talking or anything, but even our hero thought it was kind of weird how the deer just dipped like that. At least, it wasn't trying to eat him. Still, if he ran into some evil monkeys or wild pigs, things were going to get nasty. Another weird detail? This valley deer was never in the Sura game at all. So, our guy started thinking, maybe this world was like the other game, Survival Life, or something like that. He pulled out a knife and kept walking, just in case something tried to jump him. He was still trying to tell himself that the end of the world couldn't really happen, but right as he was about to lose hope, he found something cool, a glowing sun apple hanging from a tree. He wondered if it was safe, but then he just took a big bite. Instantly, he felt stronger, and the system told him his stamina was back, and plus, his body started glowing yellow. It was just like the sun apple juice from the game. That was all the proof he needed. This world was real, and the danger was coming. Now, our poor guy noticed he was sitting right next to some goblin poop. Yeah, gross. He let out a big sigh and tried to pump himself up, but deep down, he finally believed that the end was really coming. After checking out the portal and seeing all this crazy stuff, our MC went back through the gate to his real world. Once he was back, he knew he had to get ready. The first thing he did was go through all his old game footage and save it to a hard drive. Lucky for him, he had streamed all his play sessions, so getting that info was easy. He never thought he'd use it, but hey, you never know, right? Then it happened. The news said the asteroid would hit Japan in 32 days, which meant the apocalypse would start then too. He decided to use this time to get ready, because the game had some truly evil stuff in it. The worst thing? Something called Iron Death Disease. This thing turned every piece of metal into dust, and after that, the zombies went wild. Imagine entire buildings just falling apart and everyone losing their cars and weapons. Humanity would be back in the Stone Age, seriously. The disease lasted a whole year in the game, but our hero thought it wouldn't get through his private portal. So, at least he had that going for him. Now, Song-ho was getting ready, because he knew he had a short time before everything went straight to hell. So here's how things went for Seong-ho, after he figured out he had only weeks before the world turned into a zombie hell. He counted up all his cash and decided, screw it, he was gonna drop every penny on top quality gear. Bro acted like he was about to load into some real-life Call of Duty zombie mode, so he bought every survival tool and supply he could get his hands on. Late at night, he checked out the forums and just felt annoyed because a couple of idiots who woke up with powers already started using them to rob people and act wild. Yeah, people suck sometimes. The next morning, our MC went out again to buy even more stuff for his big mission. On the way home, he even picked up a hunting bow, just in case things got real. While he was hauling all this back, Seong-ho started thinking maybe he was overdoing it. Maybe he was just panicking for no reason and wasting all his hard-earned money. But he decided it'd be fine. He could always make that cash back if nothing happened. After finishing his shopping spree, he went home and threw up a little closed for remodeling sign on his shop. Then, just as he was lost in thought, he heard someone call out. It was this girl who totally looked like Cha Hyen from Solo Leveling, a real beauty. Her name was Mi Kyung, a regular of his shop. She looked worried about the shop being closed. Our bro told her it was just some remodeling work, but the girl teased him, asking if he had suddenly made it big and gotten rich. Seong-ho told her he had some work to finish, and tried to leave. But she stopped him and clearly wanted to ask something. She chickened out at the last second though, got all embarrassed, and just turned around to go home. Bro was curious what her deal was, but decided not to force it. He headed back, telling himself he was done with distractions and would focus on what actually mattered. He really told himself he was going to ignore all the drama and get serious, for real. Then, he told his magic system, it's time to open the portal. One thing about our hero, he always played games like a tactician, not a fighter. Dude loved making plans and using his brain instead of just beating monsters with brute force. In Sura, you couldn't just grind stats by fighting. You had to go out, hunt, and explore if you wanted to get stronger. So, over in the other world, our MC started practicing with his new bow. The guy had never touched one before, so he just watched a bunch of YouTube videos and tried to copy what he saw. He set up, took aim, and let an arrow fly. Amazingly, he nailed the target right away and felt like a total legend. Still, after trying a few more shots, his hand was killing him, and he realized his real weakness was his own weak body. So, he promised himself he'd start working out and build up his stamina. Once the basic stuff was done, it was on to phase 2. He needed to plan 2 big things. First, figure out the safest way to hunt monsters, and second, build a home base to store all his stuff safely. The only problem? All his serious equipment and supplies were still being shipped to him, so he was stuck with nothing for now. Until his gear showed up, he just wandered around picking golden apples, which was pretty lucky, honestly. He marked down all the good spots, and used his old Sura tricks to get ready for the coming apocalypse. While exploring, Seong-ho started hunting for goblin poop. Yeah, you heard that right. Goblins always moved in packs, but finding just one lonely poop on the ground meant there was only a single goblin around. Our guy, who might as well have called himself the Poop Inspector Pro Max, used his expert skills to guess that this goblin was probably kicked out of its group. Song-ho figured this loser goblin was his big opportunity, and he just had to track it down. Night fell, and he kept searching for the solo goblin. He heard some wolves howling, which meant he was getting close to the valley. Then finally, he spotted the goblin, just like the ones in his game. Now, goblins were supposed to be the lamest monsters out there, with nothing but spears and poison darts, but they were still nasty. They loved torturing people, which is why our MC picked a bow instead of fighting up close. Luckily, this goblin was old and weaponless, so Seong-ho whipped out his bow, telling himself that if he stayed calm, he could nail the shot. He fired his first arrow and hit the goblin right in the arm. He was aiming for the head, but hey, not bad for his first real monster encounter. He tried to shoot again, but the goblin chucked a rock so hard it knocked the bow out of his hands. Seong-ho realized he was up against a tough customer. Both of them pulled out their knives, getting ready for a final showdown. Seong-ho tried to slash the goblin, but the thing dodged and smacked him right in the knee. That had to hurt. Our boy tackled the goblin, slamming it to the ground. He got on top and stabbed his blade deep into the goblin's chest. The thing screamed until it finally died. Seong-ho stared in shock. He had actually killed a goblin for real and even earned 2 points. He could barely believe it. While catching his breath, he noticed some guaca powder and vegetable oil nearby. He remembered from the game that if you mix those together, you could make ointment. But first he had to move fast. If the other goblins found the dead body, they'd come after him, and leaving it out to rot would turn it into some freaky monster called a bone creeper. So, yeah, he didn't have time to mess around. Just then, Seong-ho spotted a pair of red trouts not far away. But before he could celebrate, his heart just about stopped. He looked up and saw the creepiest owl monster staring right at him. Dude was in big trouble now. Suddenly, our hero was remembering all those times he used to stream his Sura game runs. Back then, he would talk about goblins and kobolds, and people in his chat would even send him money just to see him dive straight into the action. He always made sure to warn everyone about monsters like bone creepers, but the real nightmares in that forest were the werewolves and owlbears. Owlbears, especially, were super territorial and kept all the other beasties in check. Thinking about those days actually made our boy feel kind of warm inside. He even remembered some of his weird old chat friends, like Boo Sungman, who cheered him on, and Barking Dog Dude, who only ever typed woof for some reason. Honestly, the internet is full of weirdos. But then, Seong-ho realized it was kind of weird to be thinking about the good old days right now, especially when he was staring down a creature that looked like a walking jump scare. This owlbear wasn't just terrifying, it was about to make him into a midnight snack. Still, our boy refused to panic. It was like those happy memories were telling him to focus up and use his brain. He started thinking fast, trying to come up with a plan. He knew from his game days that beasts were crazy strong and could rip anything apart. The only good news? This one wasn't attacking right away, which probably meant it wasn't even that hungry. But there was another problem. This was red trout territory, and now he was caught right in the middle of these two monsters' turf war. Not a great place to be, bro. Seong-ho told himself that he might be stuck in Kang Seong-ho's weak body, but deep down, he was still Kimbap Joa, the absolute pro. He gritted his teeth and decided he wasn't going down without a fight. Our main guy made his stand, basically challenging the monster with his eyes. The owlbear didn't waste time. It stared him down and went for its first terrifying attack. Everyone knows these things hunt best at night, but Seong-ho also remembered their one big weakness: direct sunlight. He had memorized all their patterns back when he was a gamer, so he just had to pull off the right moves now. As the beast lunged, Seong-ho dodged perfectly, matching its timing. While he was moving, he figured he needed a light source to scare the thing. Bursting with adrenaline, our boy sprinted right up the creature's huge arm, then whipped out a flashlight and blasted its eyes with a beam of light. The effect was instant. The beast freaked out, totally blinded, even though it was supposed to be a top predator. Bro, that was genius. Next thing you know, our MC was back in his bed, looking like roadkill as his alarm went off. He felt like trash after last night, no surprise, since he had to deal with both a goblin and a freaking owlbear in one night. He had blacked out as soon as he got home, and his body was absolutely wrecked. When he tried to get up and grab something to eat, he just fell to the floor. Turns out his legs were not ready for another round. Good thing he still had some of those golden apples from the other world. He took a bite, and suddenly, his stamina was all the way back. Magic fruit for the win. After cleaning up a bit and feeling almost human again, our boy went out for food and ran right into that girl again, the one from the shop, Mi Kyung. She said it was just a coincidence, but she sat down because she liked having someone to eat with. Out of nowhere, she asked him if he had tried opening the status window. Her excitement made it pretty clear this was what she wanted to talk about before, but got too shy to bring up. Mi Kyung even showed him the news about people with powers causing trouble, stealing money and all that. Seong-ho was a little shocked that she just came out and asked, but he played it cool and lied, telling her his status window never showed up. Honestly, he thought it was smarter to keep his abilities secret for now. His special trait wasn't for fighting, it was for strategy. If he showed his cards too soon, it could put him in real danger, especially if Mi Kyung turned out to be the wrong person to trust. Still, our guy was curious why the lady was so interested in all this awakening stuff. Then she surprised him. She hesitated and admitted she was lying about something. Seong-ho figured she probably meant well, so he told her she didn't have to worry. He told her there was still time and left soon after, heading home to get back to work. Finally, his delivery boxes arrived. All that gear he spent his cash on was here at last. He wasted no time and took his supplies up to the rooftop, only keeping the most important stuff on the second floor. Now, he could finally focus on the day's mission, finding a proper spot for his new hideout. He packed up gas masks, suits, and a bunch of other equipment. The plan was to build a base, and that meant he needed an axe. Once he jumped back through the portal, Song-ho started looking for a place to hide out. While searching for the old goblin from before, he accidentally found a goblin cave. He remembered exactly where it was, so he went back and checked it out. It was actually a pretty awesome spot, totally perfect for his plans. But first, he needed to know what kind of monsters lived there. Scanning the area, he spotted tiny kobold footprints. That was actually good news, because that monster was nothing to worry about. He had already come prepared for low-level monsters anyway. Plus, kobolds were nocturnal, which meant they were all sleeping right now. So, our hero decided he'd just suffocate them inside as part of his plan. And that's where our boy was at, ready to make his move, with a base to build and a bunch of sleeping kobolds just waiting for him to get started. Then, Seong-ho was ready to clear out that kobold cave and make himself a sweet base. First thing he did was chop a bunch of branches for firewood, then dumped them right by the cave entrance. Next move, he splashed a good amount of gasoline all over the pile. This man thought he was about to breeze through this cleanup. Just light a fire and easy win, right? But of course, things never go that smoothly. Suddenly, he heard some crazy noises from inside the cave. Those kobolds woke up early, and now they were eyeballing our protagonist like he was dinner. Not wanting to get chomped, Song-ho said, "Hi, yeah," real polite, and then just went wild. He whipped out his axe and charged. With one swing, he chopped both monsters right at the neck, dropping them instantly. The only reason he made it look so easy was that those kobolds were still half asleep. Double kill for our MC, and the system popped up to give him a level up and 4 points. Not too shabby for a morning workout. After the quick fight, he tossed a lighter onto the firewood. The gasoline fumes started rolling into the cave. In his old Sura game, low-level monsters had this one huge weakness. They always freaked out when something new happened, and fire was definitely new for them. So our boy just waited outside, nice and safe, with his gas mask on. Burning them directly would have been messy, but smoking them out like this made the cleanup way easier. The monsters started freaking out inside and came running out, desperate to survive. That was exactly what Seong-ho was hoping for. He wanted them weak and panicking so he could finish the job fast. He figured at least 5 would run out, but only 4 showed up. That was weird since their groups usually had 7. No time to think though. He picked one unlucky kobold and finished it off, letting the others know there were only 3 left now. Those 3 tried to attack, but our hero was ready. He swung his axe like a champ, dropping another one. Then, another little monster tried its luck, but Seong-ho blasted it with some kind of deadly fart spray. The thing got blinded right away, and our guy just lopped its head off. Now there was only one left, their little leader, shaking in terror. He stared this poor creature down, basically telling it the cave was his now and their time was up. The fight was over, but Seong-ho was totally wiped out. Even though the monsters were weak, his body just wasn't keeping up. The stats in this world were exactly like the ones in his old game, even the annoying parts, like how being tired stopped his status points from going up. Still, leveling up meant the shop would unlock more cool stuff for him later, so it wasn't all bad. The best thing right now? Having his own private base. But man, when he looked around, he was disgusted by the mess those kobolds left behind. The place was full of garbage and goblin poop, a total nightmare. Our hero started cleaning up, but he had to admit, he was getting sick of it. Bro, who knew world saving would include so much janitor work? At least he had his secret portal, so every time he needed to toss out trash, he could just hop back to Earth and dump it. That helped, but cleaning still took forever. One thing that blew his mind was how easy it was to use items from both worlds. He brought a pipe from Earth and used it in the cave with no problems. After hours of cleaning, the place was finally shining. Next up, he had to deal with bloodstains and pour some concrete. So, storing stuff would get easier. He started thinking about using mortar and sandwich panels, getting all serious about construction. The one good thing about this cave was that it was full of luminous and ignition stones. These were newbie items in the game, but there were tons of them here. So that was a win for our guy. He definitely planned to mine them once he finished fixing up the place. The next day, Seong-ho was feeling like a zombie himself. He worked so hard that his whole body hurt. When he checked his arm, he was surprised to see just a few cuts that could have been way worse. The table stacked up all his loot from the other realm. Our dude figured this was a good time to whip up some ointment. The recipe was simple: guaca powder and vegetable oil, the same amount, then just mix it up. Easy stuff, especially for someone who knew his way around a kitchen. Smearing that ointment on his arm made him feel like he was finally making progress. But then our hero realized he'd probably have to make this stuff over and over, and that was kind of a pain. He started thinking maybe it was time to raise his stats and work on the basics, unless, of course, he died before the apocalypse even started. That would be the dumbest thing ever, honestly. Seong-ho really didn't want to risk it, so maybe getting a better weapon, like a gun, would help. Then boom, a new idea hit him. He remembered something from the game's background story. The big question was, would that secret game lore actually work in this real-life apocalypse? If the events from the backstory happened, they could totally help him out. With a fresh plan in mind, our man went up to the rooftop for his construction stuff. He opened up his portal gate and started tossing bags of supplies through, one after the other. Then he grabbed a few more things and headed down to the first floor, ready for whatever was coming next. When our boy was just about to haul a bunch of packages, then, boom, that same girl showed up again out of nowhere. He started to wonder if she was just getting way too comfortable with him these days, so he totally said it right to her face and watched her get embarrassed. He quickly explained that he was just busy with all the remodeling work, and she seemed to buy it. But then, she brought up something that kind of surprised him. She told him he hadn't come in for his regular haircut in 3 months. Our MC remembered, oh right, he actually did need one, especially since he was about to go exploring again. So, he dropped what he was doing and followed her to her hair shop. Now, if you saw him sitting in that chair, you'd think he looked like a shaggy rock star, all brooding and awkward. He said she should just shave it all off. Buzz cut time. No mercy. She was a little shocked, but she just did what he asked. While she cut his hair, she admitted she'd noticed his shoulders were getting broader, like he'd been hitting the gym or something. Honestly, no real girl would ever say that, but she did, so take the compliment, bro. Seong-ho just told her he'd been working out, trying to sound casual. While she worked, Mi-kyung started talking about the status window. She mentioned that it might be tied to the game Survival Life, and that the people called Awakeners were actually those who played the game at least once. Our protagonist acted clueless and just agreed with everything, but he was a little curious. So, he asked her where she was getting all this information. Out of nowhere, this punk with tattoos came walking into the shop, saying he was there for the new intel. The funny part? Had fought with Seong-ho before because of his irritating, loud singing. Our boy was instantly annoyed that this clown was the girl's source for all her game news. The guy with the blonde hair started talking about how someone had deleted their streams and kept all the best info for himself. He even blabbed about trying to find out the streamer's real location. This punk definitely wanted to know more about this mystery person. Then, the guy, In-ho, dropped the name Kimbap Joa, which used to be Seong-ho's username, right there in the shop. Talk about awkward. Now our MC realized that people were actually out there hunting him. In-ho kept pushing, telling the girl to be brave and join their team. Seong-ho thought the whole situation was just dumb. The only reason he ever deleted his videos was that he was disappointed, not for any personal gain. But this wannabe know-it-all just kept talking trash, even cursing out Seong-ho for disappearing and not sharing any information online. Joke's on him. He had no idea the guy he hated was sitting right in front of him. Our boy wondered if the whole online community was as salty as this idiot. While bad-mouthing Kimbap Joa, this jerk keeps forcing the hairdresser to join his team. When In-ho got too irritating, Seong-ho stood up and scolded him for ruining his haircut. In-ho tried to act all tough, but Seong-ho just glared at him like he was ready to throw down, telling him to get lost unless he wanted another embarrassing defeat. That was enough for the punk. He bailed, and the girl said goodbye as he left, clearly relieved. When Seong-ho saw how stressed she looked, he asked for her number, but really, it was just because he thought this clown In-ho might actually get her in trouble someday. That was some real-world safety thinking, right there. Back at home, our boy looked like a total model with his new buzz cut. He sat down and thought about his old username. So, he decided to look himself up on the forums. Bro, what he found was pure chaos. The entire site was filled with hate, people cursing him out non-stop. Somehow, he even found In-ho's page, which was basically a shrine to being a hater, full of trash talk about our MC and nothing else. It was almost impressive how much this dude hated. Seong-ho turned off his computer. He wasn't sad, just kind of disappointed in humanity. That's when his brain just snapped into survival mode again, and he opened the portal. For the next 2 days, he busted his butt in the Sura world, mining the new cave and getting all the construction done. He used the pickaxe and mixed mortar with water, smoothing out the floors and walls each day. When the work was finally done, he just stood outside, looking at the lonely moon, waiting for the mortar to dry. Standing there, he realized he was getting pretty sick of all this hate and nonsense. He wasn't anybody's hero, and he didn't care about saving the world. The only thing that mattered was surviving, staying on top, and winning. Simple as that. But just when he settled on that, something creepy happened. A bone creeper came rattling up in the darkness, and our boy was already in a bad mood. So this thing just made him snap. Suddenly, there was a huge explosion, fire everywhere, total chaos. The next thing he knew, he woke up covered in scratches and had no clue what had even happened. Then he remembered seeing the skeleton and started to piece it together. He figured out that right after spotting the monster, he knew it would explode, so he tried to run for it. The blast caught up to him anyway, knocking him out cold but not finishing him off. Still, the move cost him. His right side was full of sharp bone fragments. Yikes. Barely able to move, he called up his status window. His stats were all down thanks to his condition, but at least the system gave him some points for taking out the monster. His head was pounding, but with his last bit of energy, he commanded the portal to open. On the other side, the first thing he did was treat his wounds. He had to pull out the bone shards, which hurt like hell, and patched himself up with his homemade ointment. When he was finally done, he bandaged everything and just passed out from the pain and exhaustion. The next morning, the sun came up, and our hero was back up, still alive somehow. He felt like he was on his last legs, so he checked the status window again. The system said he was okay, so that was a relief. He started to wonder how that damn bonehead monster even found him. The forest was huge, so it kind of made sense that random monsters could just show up out of nowhere. That was a big warning sign. He had to focus on improving his perception stat if he wanted to stay alive. He remembered that in the game, stats only went up if you used points from hunting or exploring. Gear could help too, but it always meant risking your life against way stronger monsters. Getting even one stat-boosting item meant going up against some insane beast. But defeating monsters could unlock new skills as well, depending on what you killed and how. Not every skill worked for every player though, so even that wasn't simple. Seong-ho realized that if he wanted to get stronger, he'd have to grind way harder and maybe risk his neck. But hey, that's just another day for our unlucky MC. He started thinking hard about how to get his hands on some real stat-boosting items. He knew fighting tougher monsters was part of it, but there had to be a smarter way. That's when he remembered the background stories from the game, those secret events that happened before the apocalypse even hit Earth. In the game, if you visited those places before the disaster, you could grab special rewards. Maybe he could do the same thing in the real world now. Or maybe he was just being a theory-crafting nerd again. But hey, sometimes crazy ideas actually worked. So the poor guy started digging through his old game notes and watching old footage, checking out all the hidden lore. He found 3 key spots: the Russian ship, the Hobgoblin place, and the Jiri Mountain Orc incident. The game said the Orc would be found on the 26th, which meant our MC had to get there on the 25th if he wanted first dibs. While he was plotting his next big move, his phone suddenly buzzed. It was Mi Kyung, calling him late at night. Soon, the two were chilling at a cafe. She looked at him and asked why the hell he was wearing a long-sleeve shirt in this hot summer weather. Our hero totally forgot he needed to hide his wounds, but this girl was sharper than he thought. She brought up the drama from earlier at the shop, saying she thought maybe he was upset about it. Seong-ho shook his head, letting her know he was fine, but she still looked relieved and said that moment seriously scared her. He reminded her about last winter, when that idiot In-ho caused a bunch of trouble with his illegal tow truck. The guy even started fights with people way weaker than him. Basically, he was a piece of trash, and Seong-ho begged Mi Kyung to stay away from him. She looked surprised, saying she had never heard any of that before, but she promised to be careful. Seong-ho then got straight to the point and asked her why she wanted to meet up. That's when Mi Kyung leaned in and confessed she was actually awakened too. Bro, out of nowhere, she just dropped that bomb on him. Our MC had no idea why she would trust him with something so risky, but he played it cool and acted a little jealous, like he wished he had gotten awakened powers too. She apologized for lying before, but he just told her not to worry about it. After that, he stood up to head home, but not before saying her words actually made him feel better. He even dropped a hint that he was interested in the survival life game, planning to study it more. Maybe she would pick up on his clue, or maybe not. Walking home, our boy admitted to himself that people like Mi Kyung gave him some hope for humanity. He checked some online stores and bought himself some cool drones and even rented a car for his next mission. Then he crashed in bed, needing to rest up for a big day tomorrow. Morning came, and it was go time. First thing, our MC started making materials for the orc hunt. In his cave base, he crushed and refined ignition stones, which could blow up in your face if you weren't careful. Next up were the luminous stones. Mining those blinded him with their crazy light, but that was just part of the grind. After crushing both types of stones, He turned them into fine powder. Then he mixed in sugar, gasoline, and some nasty-smelling organic chemicals, plus a hardening agent for the ignition stone so it would stay put. He was super glad his magic portal let him set up a desk wherever he wanted. Once everything was ready, our guy packed his gear and loaded it all in the rental car. Feeling good about his prep, he hit the road, headed straight for Jury Mountain for the orc hunt. He got to the campground before midnight, parking his car and spending the last few hours just going over his plan in his head and making sure his stuff was safe. When the clock struck midnight, he started his full search. After 2 hours, the rain got worse, and the whole place turned into a foggy mess. Our boy squinted into the mist, wondering where the hell those orcs even spawned from. He thought maybe the game's warning signs didn't happen in real life. But just then, a crazy loud roar snapped him out of his thoughts. He spun around and saw a giant, shadowy figure stomping its way. It was an orc, but not just any orc, a red orc subspecies. That meant a guaranteed skill drop if he could take it down, but also way more danger. Song-ho tried to keep his cool and fired off a flare, just like in his plan. If everything worked, he could totally capture it. The first step was making the orc mad and drawing its attention. When the orc saw the light from the flare, it started smashing at it with its axe, distracted for a second. That was his opening. He aimed at the monster, quickly opened his portal, and grabbed a flashbang. He set it off, and the blinding light stunned the orc for like 20 seconds. Now, it was a race against time. With the monster dazed, our boy took his chance. He slashed at the orc's muscles, weakening its movements. The orc screamed in rage and swung its giant axe at him, trying to smash him flat. But he ducked at the last second, dodging the attack, and then stabbed his knife right into the orc's foot. The beast dropped to its knees, howling in pain. As soon as their eyes were level, Seong-ho shoved his homemade flame can right down the orc's mouth. He barely had time to jump back before it exploded inside the monster's head. Victory, right? Not quite. The orc's fist came flying out of nowhere and smashed him, sending him tumbling across the ground. That looked like it hurt, bro. He scrambled to his feet, realizing he'd celebrated way too early. The orc was coming at him, upper body still on fire, not ready to go down yet. Honestly, our hero thought he was screwed this time. But then his system window popped up. Level up. He hit level 3 and got 10 more points, plus a new skill, Will to Survive. He was still shaking but checked his surroundings, desperate to find the drop item before the orc recovered. Suddenly, a light shone on his wrist. There it was. The drop was a special watch called Perception. He breathed out, super relieved. Searching for loot in the pouring rain would have been the worst. So, for now, our MC lived to fight another crazy day. Our boy stood near the dead orc, still fuming from the fight, trying to figure out what the hell he was supposed to do with this huge monster. He remembered that the Jury Mountain orc incident was supposed to be kept secret, like under a real embargo. He wondered if sharing info about it was even the right move. The situation could easily go off the rails if he made the wrong call. He started thinking about what Mi-kyung told him, about how all the awakened people had played that game at least once. That only meant one thing: there could be thousands of awakened out there. Even if just a few of them were guys like In-ho, things would get ugly fast. People like that would wreck the laws and system just to help themselves. Chaos, bro. Total chaos. But for now, his biggest problem was the orc body. If he left it there, a bone creeper would show up and start killing people by tomorrow. Then a creepy thought hit him: what if he could turn into a zombie too? Being awakened didn't mean he was safe from zombie spores. That made him freeze, stuck on what the right move was. He couldn't decide. So he did what he always did, opened his portal and kept thinking, feeling like only a few people would survive all this. Maybe the world deserved a proper ending instead of a messy one. With no better idea, our MC started digging a hole, planning to bury the dead orc. Bro, it was exhausting. The hole was barely deep enough, and he realized he still had to drag that massive beast into it. Just as he was ready to give up, his new skill, Will to Survive, kicked in, pushing him to keep going even though he was about to collapse. Suddenly, he was moving faster and finishing the job, even if he hated every second. He finally shoved the orc into its grave and felt grateful for the skill, even though it forced him to work like a maniac. After that, he opened his portal and ended up back in his moving car. His body felt laggy and weird, like he needed extra time to recover before he could do anything else. The next morning, our hero woke up, unsure if the weather outside was even real. According to his plan, he should have been setting up defenses already, but he just couldn't get himself to start today. He checked his phone, hoping there were no more red orcs running around. Today was going to be a low-key day. He decided to focus on the stuff that arrived in the early morning. There was a box with all the weapons he ordered. Well, almost all. The only one he could really use was an Indian war club. Some things were missing, though. He found a note saying some items were illegal and got stopped at customs. Sucks. But what can you do? While he was figuring out what he had, another delivery van rolled up. He shouted just to leave it at his front door, but then someone knocked anyway. That was weird. He tried repeating himself, but when he opened the gate, it wasn't the delivery guy at all. It was Mi Kyung. She stood there, saying it had been a long time and she wanted to talk. She was holding a bag of food, asking if he wanted to eat tteokbokki with her. Only 24 days left until the apocalypse, and yet here she was. Our boy pretty much lost it inside. He couldn't believe she was actually at his house. He stood there, red-faced and awkward, especially when she started serving the food and told him to hurry up and eat before it got cold. He listened, duffing his face with the spicy food while trying not to look like a total loser. When they finished eating, he asked her what she wanted to talk about. She got real serious, saying that since he mentioned Sura before, she figured this was the time to talk about some important stuff from the game. That was a letdown for our hero. He kind of hoped she wanted to talk about something else, maybe even dating. But he told himself that talking about apocalyptic disaster plans was probably the smartest thing to do right now. Better to have someone decent around when things hit the fan. Mi Kyung got up to take out the trash while our MC pulled out his computer to get ready. He even decided to share information while hiding the fact that he was an awakened. He started explaining the metal death plague, telling her that moving around in a group bigger than 6 just turned people into zombie bait. Getting good at noticing things, having strong perception, was the most important skill of all. The whole point of Sura was just to survive. He was about to explain more, but she stopped him and brought up what Inho said about Kimbap Joa getting hated online. She asked why he wasn't sharing game info if everyone wanted it so bad. Our boy didn't really know how to answer and just told her to take a guess. She said everyone had their reasons and circumstances could explain it. She then told him that she turned down Inho's offer to join him. He wanted to know why. She pulled out her phone and showed him a recording of Inho and his friends talking about kidnapping a girl, like they were really creeps. It made Seong-ho angry just thinking about it. He told Mi Kyung that people's real selves would get exposed when the apocalypse finally hit. He warned her not to trust anyone, but then she surprised him by asking if they should team up and form a party. That question nearly made him choke. He couldn't just say yes. One of his goals was to reach level 10 and unlock the shop before the tutorial started, but in Sura, monster ranks get stronger if you level up. If she tagged along, she could end up getting killed in the worst way. He tried to laugh it off, asking what she would do if he turned into a zombie. She only smiled and said she would be fine, then used her power to pop over to his dining table in a second. She was showing off her trait, Blink. If he tried to bite her, all she had to do was teleport away. That left our MC totally impressed, but also worried. He told her not to show that to just anyone, but she said she trusted him. She grinned and said, if they didn't get turned into zombies, they'd make a great team. The next day, our boy spent some time near the trees, feeling kind of proud because making fences was way easier than he thought. He hammered down some support posts, wrapped barbed wire around them, and fixed everything together like he knew what he was doing. He even installed a few infrared sensors just to be extra safe. After he finished, he looked at his work and thought that, seriously, someone should give him a dexterity point for that effort. Dude was basically a builder now. He started walking back, finished up the mortar work, and managed to put together a defense wall. Then he got busy moving package after package, feeling half dead by the end. When he was finally done, he stood there measuring what to do next. But then out of nowhere, he sneezed and felt a chill. The cold from the other world was already hitting him, so he figured he needed to handle that fast. Just hiding in this world wasn't going to work forever if he turned into an ice cube over there. He looked at the cave entrance and realized that just hanging a curtain wouldn't cut it anymore. Nope, he needed to build a real gate. But every time he solved one problem, his to-do list just kept getting longer. Life of a survival pro, bro. Later, our MC hit up a woodworking shop to buy supplies and order new stuff. On the drive home, he checked out the places on his list to rob when the metal death plague hit. He'd only have 5 hours before metal started dying, so he needed a plan. But while he was making his mental list, he suddenly ran into Hyung-jun, the gym director guy he hadn't seen in forever. The guy was a divorcee and had a little kid. But today, Hyung-jun looked rough, like the world just stomped on him. He started checking out our hero's body, joking that he looked like he was getting back in shape. That was awkward. Seong-ho asked what was going on with him, and this man replied that it should be obvious. He was upset because the world was ending. That stopped our boy in his tracks. He was surprised that Hyungjun knew the truth too. The beefcake asked if he believed the rumors, and our MC played it cool, pretending he hadn't awakened at all. Hyungjun sighed and said he hadn't awakened either. He explained that he didn't believe anything at first, but that changed fast when his friend suddenly started floating with his new superpower. Now that friend was off to the broadcasting station, trying to make money off his powers. Hyungjun made our boy sit beside him, and it hit the MC that soon, the whole world would know about the awakened people. Then, Hyungjun brought up something wild, the Yoido shootout. Our MC had no clue what he was talking about, since he never watched the news in the morning. His buddy insisted he check the news, but when Seong-ho tried, the post about the shootout got deleted right away. The media was totally getting controlled now. He explained the follow-up story, saying the news claimed it was just a deserter who started shooting. But the place was now closed off, and only the army and police could get close. Our boy suddenly felt like he had to get out of there, so he made up some excuse and ran home. He started freaking out, because the shootout happened right after the orc incident. It made it way too obvious to him, the government must be involved. Their reaction was just too suspicious. Back home, he opened a file on his computer and played a video. He was shocked to see so many people knew the exact time of the precursor event. He thought he had hidden the orc problem, but the shootout happened at the same time anyway. Our MC kept overthinking, wondering if someone had leaked the info to the government before everything started. Maybe this person was working with the government, but didn't come out in public because they didn't have fighting skills. He didn't know who it was, but he was sure there was someone working from the shadows. He did some research and narrowed his suspects down to 3 veteran players. After thinking about it, he crossed out the creator of the game. If the creators were with the government, they wouldn't have let him kill the orc. He even sketched out the 3 main suspects, and wondering if survivor number 1 was the real problem. If he was right, there was no reason to rat out the information himself. He leaned back in his chair, missing his old veteran friends, and decided to just trust them for now. Anyway, even sharing this information wouldn't stop the disaster from coming, so he figured it was better to stay out of it for now. 2 days later, our boy finally got his cave door built and his pantry all set up. The first shelter was finally done, which was a win. He installed 2 logistic trays and started drilling through the wall, but there was way less space than he hoped for. At least the basement was waterproofed now, so he just kept working on it a little at a time. He walked off, thinking he'd figure out the details when his body finished healing. For Phase 2, he needed good maps, so he broke out his drone and put on his VR set. Flying the drone, he checked out the shelter from above and started exploring. He found snowy fields in the northwest and even an ocean down south, which was packed with prey and had no monsters. He decided he'd set up traps there to catch fish. He also studied the valley to learn what kinds of animals lived near the shelter. Suddenly, while flying the drone, he noticed the spot where he buried the owlbear. The body was gone. He wondered if the big furball monster from before ate it, but he couldn't be sure. There were tons of orc footprints around, so it was even more suspicious. He measured the distance between the valley and his shelter, about 1.5 kilometers, and realized his place might be way more dangerous than he thought, especially with goblins nearby. So, not wanting to lose his drone, he brought it back to the shelter. At least now he had a good map and knew which animals were in the forest. Life was about to get even crazier, but hey, at least he was prepared, sort of. Without further ado, he had to check out all the new areas he found on his drone map. He started with the closest swamp, hoping he could start a little farm there. But just as he was getting ready, the infrared sensors went off. He didn't even have to guess. Those footsteps on the ground were classic goblin tracks. Our MC had already been expecting this, so he was actually kind of excited. Maybe it was, thanks to his new perception skill, but every tiny sound was super clear now. He waited for a bit, staying hidden, and soon he spotted a couple of goblins without them seeing him. Dude, this was the perfect chance to ambush them. He got his bow ready, aimed his arrow straight at a goblin's head, and let it fly. That goblin dropped instantly, but the others saw him and started charging in like idiots. Still, they were basically free points for our boy. He took down 4 of them with no problem. Then, he went after the last group, but these guys managed to surround him. That was a bad situation, but he was ready. He pulled a flashbang, and as soon as he threw it down, the goblins saw it, and they all dropped to their knees like someone just unplugged their brains. While they were down, the poor goblins didn't stand a chance. Our MC chopped their heads right off, making use of their exhaustion. Even he couldn't believe how easy it was. He kinda amazed by himself there. Now, there were only 21 days left until the apocalypse hit. Our hero started digging to bury all the goblin bodies, feeling dead tired. But then his special skill kicked in, and suddenly he felt super refreshed and efficient, like he just drank 3 energy drinks at once. He realized that maybe this skill wasn't so useless after all. After all the goblin bodies were buried, he turned to collect his loot. First, he found some guaca fruit, which was basically like a cheat code for restoring strength. There was also a ton of vegetable oil, which made him wonder if there was a big harvest somewhere nearby. Then, he checked the head goblin's pouch and found something weird. A blue toad, still alive and kicking. Our boy had no clue why these goblins were carrying a live toad, but that thing started smelling awful right away. Then it hit him. This was a paralysis poison toad. The green monster used this smell for poison attacks. As soon as he realized this, our MC decided he just had to raise this toad, no matter what. Not only was it kinda cute, yeah, this dude has a soft spot for blue frogs, but he figured he could use the poison for hunting, and maybe even make himself resistant by injecting some of it. He named the little guy Jodoc, promising he'd get plenty of food. Suddenly, his status window popped up, saying that Blue Frog was now his property. Our protagonist couldn't help but wonder if this was some secret game feature that made it into the real world. He started overthinking, like usual, but then got back to work. Next up, he explored again, opening his dimensional gate and going back and forth to organize all his stuff. After getting everything in order, he started searching the area around his base. Pretty soon, he found something cool he'd missed on the drone, a spring with fresh water. He checked it out and was relieved to see it was just normal water, nothing cursed or freaky about it. Even better, there was a little hideout right behind the spring. And, jackpot, he found a guaca tree and even more vegetable oil buds there. He picked up the fruits and oil buds, then made sure to leave marks on the trees so he wouldn't get lost next time. When he got back to his apartment, it was time to feed his new pet, Jodoc. Right now, he was raising the little guy in his second-floor apartment. He didn't dare leave his frog at the hideout alone. He'd probably get eaten. Taking care of his pet was just one chore, though. The other big job was making ointment for wounds. But, bro, he made way too much and had no idea what to do with it all. He figured Mi-kyung didn't need it, because she was awakened too. So, he decided to give some to Hyungjun. At Hyungjun's place, the gym guy drank a protein shake, and our MC gave him the ointment. He was confused and asked if Seong-ho was trying to start a business. Our boy just grinned and said he bought too much, but it was good for cuts and scrapes. Hyungjun was still grateful, though, for the ointment and the Sura info, but Seong-ho said he should be thanking his buddy for warning him about the shooting. Then Seong-ho noticed the gym was weirdly empty. When he asked, this beefcake explained that everyone was left to make survival plans after a broadcaster spilled his secrets. Now they were thinking about making the gym their main base. Our boy warned him that having too many people in one place was dangerous as hell, but Hyungjun was just too loyal to his gym bros to leave them behind. He asked what Seong-ho was going to do, but our MC just dodged the question. Suddenly, a scream cut through the air. Our boy knew that voice. He looked outside and saw Mi-kyung on the ground. He and Hyungjun rushed down to her, worried sick, and asked what happened. The lady said she got attacked, but didn't see who did it. The gym dude immediately ran out to check the area, even though Seong-ho tried to stop him from being so reckless. While Hyungjun rushed around outside, our hero stayed with Mi-kyung. She said everything just went black for a second, and she had no idea what even hit her. That made our boy freak out a little inside, because he realized something bad was starting to happen. He told her to use her blink ability, the second anything weird happened again, because, bro, the threats were getting real. He promised to send her a self-defense kit soon and told her to be super careful from now on. Man, life was getting crazier by the day for our MC. Only 20 days were left until the apocalypse. Yeah, time was flying, and our boy could feel it. He started off thinking about this one old meme. When 5 people gather, one of them is always useless. Bro, that's just how life works. And he knew it even better from playing Sura. Trolls were everywhere, no matter the world. In Sura, there were even patches to mess with troublemakers, but the developers just answered complaints without ever catching these losers. Trollers would act all normal, join a party, and then lure the team straight into a monster den, wiping them all out. Sometimes they'd pretend to be friendly to beginners, then backstab them and take their gear. These jerks even made whole parties fight each other just for kicks. Seriously, they wrecked the game so hard that after 1 year, there were only 4 real players left, and that was only because Seong-ho's team finally wiped out the last annoying trolls. Our boy suddenly realized he was ranting hard like some old man online. He snapped out of it, deciding to sum up what he knew so far. After that whole Yoido shootout, The Awakeners communities all merged together. It wasn't just for sharing survival info anymore. Now, everyone was scheming and plotting. As he kept scrolling through their sites, he suddenly stopped. What the hell? People were selling his videos too. That was a new low, even for the apocalypse. He kept digging through the sites, and almost fell out of his chair when he saw Dawajusum, or Daju, a problematic who trolled everyone. There was even a huge thumbnail for Daju's video about being carried by Kimbap Yoa, our MC's old streamer name. Just great. He could already imagine this troll using some dumb edited clip to trick new players. Still, he had to admit, that was some creative hustling, and he even gave Daju a sarcastic round of applause in his head, since people were praising the guy for being smart. But whatever. Our hero stretched his arms, knowing he had to keep training if he wanted to deal with these types of people. For the next 13 days, our boy barely took a break. Whenever he had a free minute, he watched survival YouTube channels and practiced weapon skills, learning all the real-world techniques he could. But it wasn't just training. Monsters kept showing up, even around his hideouts, so he had to stay sharp. Plus, he realized that a lot of strategies and weapons floating around had a huge problem. They weren't built to work after the wire disease hit and messed up all the metal. After those sweaty 13 days, it was finally time to pick a main weapon. Our MC dumped out his tool bag and checked his options: an Indian war club, a wooden slingshot, a pouch of clay beads, and a handmade stone axe. But honestly, none of them felt right. He tested out the slingshot first, since it could be useful for all sorts of things, but the clay beads were weak and didn't pack much punch. Next, he gave the Indian war club a few practice swings. He remembered that after the wire disease, smashing zombie heads with a blunt weapon was the best way to go. That's why, back in his gamer days, his first big buy after hitting level 10 was always a club-type weapon, like the ebony wood club. He needed to get good at clubs now if he wanted a chance later. Still, our MC wasn't sure if the Indian war club would work on people and not just monsters. He figured it was risky, especially if he had to fight some psychic awakener. He remembered that in survival life, killing another player gave you 50 points, but you'd get marked as a murderer and have to fight nearby players in forced death matches. Lots of people would still go for it, even if they got punished later. Not his style, though. While he was thinking all this, he ended up totally smashing his practice dummy with the club. He decided, for now, he'd just avoid murder-crazy players until his stats and skills were way higher. All that hard work left our hero sweating and tired, but he had more to do. He was just about to start dismantling the shop for good when he froze. There was a wolf howl close by. That freaked him out. Was there a wolf hurt near his secret base? He went outside to check and saw the thing up close. It was huge, way bigger than any normal wolf. Seriously, he could probably ride the thing if he wanted. The system popped up and told him this was a gray wolf. But something was weird. The wolf wasn't breathing. He thought maybe it was a stray, or maybe it wandered over after getting attacked. He got closer to look at its wounds. Out of nowhere, a little wolf pup headbutted him in the back. Our boy finally understood. The big dead wolf was the mom, and this little wolf was standing guard, trying to protect her. He was totally stuck. He couldn't just push the pup away by force, so he grabbed a shovel and started digging a grave for the mother. While he worked, the pup curled up next to its mom and fell asleep, triggering a flashback for our MC to his own childhood and to Mongchi, the dog he used to have. Once he finished the hole, he gently picked up the little wolf and quietly explained that its mom would be sleeping here from now on. He promised the pup could visit her anytime, and he even planned to make a special dog hole in the hideout door just for that. Then, he handed the pup a piece of meat and told it that he'd always make sure it had food until it grew strong. All he asked in return was help with sniffing things out using its wild nose. The pup made a happy sound, which was all the answer he needed. Our MC gave it a name, Dingo, and gave it a good head pat. Right away, the system went ding and told him he'd successfully bonded with the gray wolf, and this puppy was now officially his property. Now, there were 19 days left. Training started immediately. Every day, our hero worked with his dog, teaching it all kinds of commands. When he asked for a paw, Dingo put it on his hand. He told it to turn, sit, lie, down, or stay, and the puppy listened perfectly. He even tossed a big bone, and Dingo jumped up and caught it like a pro. Our boy was proud as hell. This wolf was a fast learner, probably thanks to being from another world or whatever. He knew that with Dingo's crazy sense of smell, his life just got a lot safer. He kissed our dog and was about to say something when his phone suddenly rang. Checking the message, he saw it was from Hyungjun, telling him to look up levitation online. That was weird, but he did it anyway. He found a top-ranked article about someone called the First Superhuman, who claimed zombies and monsters were coming and that the world was going to end. People in the comments didn't believe it, saying the news channel was just fishing for clicks. Most of the regular folks were clueless, but the awakeners in the comment section were definitely freaking out. Our boy couldn't help but laugh. Some people got mad when info was kept secret, but others blew up when everything got shared. Humans, bro. He started wondering what the government would do next. He figured they'd step in sooner or later, especially after the next big event, the Hobgoblin warning. But honestly, our MC had no time for that drama. He knew he had to stay focused, keep training, and stick close to Dingo, because the end of the world was not waiting for anybody. Our boy was not about to waste a single second. He looked at Dingo and told him that starting today, they were going to explore together. Deep inside, he knew he had to prepare for everything if he wanted to survive. And, dude, his puppy seemed totally down for it. A little later, the two of them went through the portal into that wild, other world. While they walked, our protagonist started thinking about why he was bringing his new wolf buddy along for this interdimensional adventure. He let Dingo sniff a tiny pouch, then told him to find it. The first reason was all about the upcoming Hobgoblin event. He needed it to get super familiar with the scent of goblins so that the puppy could track them down later. Dingo was all business, he barked, after finding the corpse hidden deep in a mound. Our MC was seriously proud. His little guy had found it just by catching a whiff that was barely there. But, hey, that wasn't the only reason for this exploration. The second reason was to see if his dog could keep his cool during real fights and listen to commands. So he gave a signal, and the pup shot forward like, wow, total pro energy. Dingo went straight for a rabbit out on the grass and nailed it. Our hero gave him a ton of praise for that. The third reason, he wanted to see if actual hunting was possible in this world. When Song-ho came over to check Dingo's catch, he saw that the rabbit was way bigger than normal and had some strong claws. Definitely not your average bunny. After that, the two explorers kept going, just wandering and learning. As they moved along, our MC started wondering what Dingo's mental stats would look like if the system showed them. He figured he could check that out for himself, so he headed toward the valley. Then, boom, a system window popped up, saying that Puppy's health had gone up by 1. That was nuts, because he remembered back in his streamer days as Kimbap Yoa, his own health stat was 170 and Dingo was already growing so fast. Suddenly his dog started coughing and our poor guy got worried. Rushing over to give him some water, he gently reminded his partner not to run off alone into the woods. While Dingo drank, our MC's eyes landed on a massive green pepper growing nearby, and he started thinking maybe the pup had tried to eat that. The system helpfully told him it was called a bull pepper. Song-ho was pumped to find something like that in the wild and gave Dingo a thumbs up, promising to hook him up with more treats later. He got down and started digging to harvest the bull pepper. They set off again for one last hunt. This time, the two of them sat on some rocks at the edge of a stream, just chilling for a moment. Dingo didn't smell anything weird or dangerous this time. Our hero knew the red trout in that stream weren't monsters and wouldn't drop items or points, but he figured the experience would be good for his young buddy all the same. After the hunt was done, he made up his mind to finish prepping for Phase 2 and then head home. The next day, he totally demolished his restaurant. The manager from the demo company was there, telling our MC to contact them within 3 days if there was any problem with the repairs. Our protagonist thanked the guy, honestly grateful that everything started so early. As he looked around at the wreckage, he felt a bit sad, but he knew it had to be done. When he stepped inside, he figured all the shops would get looted after the apocalypse anyway. And, bro, he'd probably do the same if he were desperate. He didn't blame anyone. While Seong-ho was cleaning up, Hyung-jun showed up behind him, checking out the empty place. His buddy said he'd done the same, left only the bare minimum stuff in his own shop. Our hero wondered out loud why Hyung-jun was even there. But, instead of answering, that guy snapped his fingers hard on Seong-ho's forehead, annoyed that he'd disappeared yesterday without saying anything. He said he came just to make sure our MC was still alive. Meanwhile, Dingo watched Hyung-jun with cold, suspicious eyes. Hyung-jun asked if Seong-ho always had a dog, but our boy explained that his old dog was gone, and this was his new pet. His friend called the puppy adorable. Still, our MC kept pushing, asking again why Hyung-jun was really there. Finally, this dude admitted he was worried, but he also dropped a big reveal. He had found out who was behind the attack on Mi-kyung. Now there were only 17 days left until the world went crazy. The two of them sat down to talk. Hyung-jun told Seong-ho that Kim Chul-jun, the guy who always wore a hat, was leading the party that was after Mi-kyung. That annoying tow truck driver was also with them. His friend pointed toward the mountains and asked if our hero knew the spot where the redevelopment stopped, adding that the party's base was right there. Our boy couldn't help but wonder how Hyungjun got all this info, so that man explained that everything just lined up. He said Han Ji-nong, the guy with the levitation power, had been on some TV show, and Hyungjun had straight up asked him. The levitation guy told him he'd met Chuljun's group before, but left because they were all terrible people. After what happened to Mi-kyung, every woman left that party, only saying they got better offers from other teams. He wanted to know what Seong-ho thought. Our MC guessed that unlike Mi-kyung, the other women probably got tricked into joining. Then, out of nowhere, Hyungjun announced his own party was down to just 4 people, including himself. That hit our boy like a truck, because there had been 20 people not long ago. Hyungjun didn't explain further, but Seong-ho realized they only had 2 awakeners left. He couldn't believe it, thinking about all the times they'd helped those people, only for everyone to just bail. But his buddy was calm about it, saying that's just how it was. People were only looking out for themselves. What worried Hyungjun most was his little girl, Ji-yoon. He wondered out loud if he should contact his ex-wife about what was coming. Our MC kept his face blank, but their situations were totally different. Still, he wanted to check if his own thoughts lined up with reality, so he asked his friend something that had been bugging him. He wondered, if the apocalypse really happened and people started threatening Hyungjun, what would he do? Before he could finish, this guy cut him off, saying he wouldn't even hesitate to kill them. He explained that he never wanted to hurt anyone, but if the world fell apart and there was no law, it would be the only way. Absolute evil has no value in being kept alive. Our hero didn't answer. Right then, someone started screaming for help. The noise blasted from Seong-ho's phone. That man thought it sounded like a lost kid, but our MC checked his map and told Hyungjun to watch Dingo for a bit. Something big was about to go down. Our girl Mi-kyung was in big trouble. She was on top of a building, surrounded by some real creeps. Looked like she had managed to send out a distress signal, but right now, she was facing off with the biggest jerk of the group, In-ho, that tow truck meathead. He smirked and asked why she had to make things so dramatic, telling her to come down already. But Mi-kyung stood right on the rooftop edge, yelling that she already told them no, but they just kept following her. She wanted to know what their problem was. Of course, In-ho tried to act all nice, asking her to rethink her decision, but then Kim Chul-jun and his buddy Ma Jong stepped in, saying they'd take care of things themselves. They pointed out that this was just a redevelopment area, so nobody was coming to bail her out. That bad hat guy told her not to waste her energy fighting, and even reminded the group that everyone there had powers. Then, he started a countdown, like some kind of movie villain. Meanwhile, our boy was hiding in a nearby alley, getting his gear ready. He was just waiting for the right moment. As Kim Chul-jun counted down 3, 2, our MC let his slingshot fly. Smacking this scum, right on 2, the bad guys looked around, totally confused about who was attacking them. That's when our protagonist stepped out, rocking a helmet and ready to throw hands. Without wasting a second, he ran up and smashed In-ho with his Indian war club. The dude didn't know what hit him. Then our hero went for another gang member, but this guy started leaking some weird black energy. Our MC guessed he must have a vision-blocking power, but that didn't stop him from landing a hit. Now our boy was breathing hard, but he spotted Mi-kyung, who shouted at him to watch out. He spun around just in time to see Kim Chul-jun charging him with a baseball bat. The hit slammed into his helmet, cracking it. He was shocked. There was some serious power behind that swing. At the same time, this bastard recognized him, eyes narrowing with hate. While all this went down, our boy started thinking about Kim Chul-jun's trait. Even though the guy was just getting started as an awakener, that offensive power was insane. The jerk shouted that he was going to kill the MC, and his whole crew lined up behind him, looking angry and ready to fight, even if they didn't have powers themselves. Then In-ho charged, electricity sparking from his hands, and started mocking our hero, calling him out. Our MC was kind of stuck. He didn't know if he should just open the gate and bail. But right as In-ho was about to strike, Dingo popped out of nowhere and bit In-ho's arm. Total lifesaver move. Hyungjun stepped out from another alley, acting all casual as he asked if they really wanted to do this in broad daylight. He said he was calling 112 and told them to scram if they didn't want police problems. That worked. The whole gang decided they'd had enough and took off. Hyungjun shook his head, saying they acted all tough but were actually weak. Mi-kyung wasted no time. She ran over and grabbed our hero's head, checking if he was okay. She noticed his helmet was busted, and his friend offered him a piggyback if he needed it. With both of them fussing over him, Our MC suddenly remembered his old gaming friends, made him feel weird for a second. She wanted to take him to the hospital, but our MC just turned away, saying he was fine. Then he looked at Hyungjun and asked if they could make Mi Kyung part of their team. This man said he was cool with it if the lady agreed, and she jumped right in, saying she was down. The hero said he had stuff to do and left. But Hyungjun and Mi Kyung were left behind, confused about why he was acting so distant. Back at home, our protagonist tried to keep his emotions together and focused on planning for Phase 2 of his survival setup. He felt a little bad for leaving his friends like that, but after seeing his friends together, he finally thought maybe he could trust them with his real secrets. It didn't matter right now, though. He already made his choice. If he wanted to make the most out of his dimensional gate, he had to level up and grind for items and skills as fast as possible. After fighting that mountain gang, the thought, crush them with item power, was stuck in his head even more. He also realized that, if he kept on leveling up solo, there would be a huge gap between him and his team. Monsters that respawned around him would be way stronger. That could make things super hard for Mi Kyung and Hyungjun if they tried to team up later. Still, he kept working, pushing himself until he finished installing a wood-burning stove in his hideout. Not gonna lie, he felt pretty good about that. Dingo loved it too, sleeping like a baby next to the warm stove. There were just a few more things to set up before his first hideout would be ready for the squad. Our MC decided not to sleep, working through the night to get it all done. Now, there were only 16 days left before the world ended. On TV, a news anchor gave an update about the asteroid. Turns out, the HSA said the thing, Yunjambi, had reached the middle of the solar system. The asteroid broke into two pieces because of Jupiter's gravity, and the scientists claimed neither piece was coming to Earth. Thomas Chandler, the big boss of the meteorite department, told everyone there was no risk. But our boy knew better. He remembered that on D5, just 5 days before Doomsday, Yunjambi Beta had crashed. It hit near a Russian ship, and a tsunami pushed the ship to Gamcheon port. That was how the zombies first popped up in Korea. The news kept rolling, reporting on the Uido shooting. The president still hadn't left his house, so the opposition leaders wanted a hearing. People were even starting to say this was all connected to the Awakened and the coming apocalypse. Our hero just shook his head, admitting to himself that the end was really coming. One good thing, though, now that the news was on it, maybe Awakeners wouldn't be able to get away with crime so easily. Our MC went online to see what everyone was saying. In the comments, people were going wild with their opinions. He noticed one comment from someone called My Dream, and it made him wonder if this guy had been hanging around the whole time. My Dream was a chill player who always helped newbies, and back in the day, our MC's group had played with him a few times. That dude's dream was to build a bunker. If he didn't have his special portal, he might have even joined. He decided he wouldn't make any deals unless his veteran friends joined too. But he bookmarked My Dream's comment just in case. Finally, he shut the laptop and started thinking about building his second shelter. Man, there was no time to waste now. The next morning, our boy was standing in front of his hideout, looking like a zombie himself. He realized he had just pulled 2 all-nighters back to back, and man, he was dead tired. Still, seeing the outside of his shelter all finished made him feel way better, like maybe he could actually survive here. Now, it was time to figure out how to use the solar panels for electricity. This part was not simple. He needed to mess with a lot of wires to make sure his electronics wouldn't just explode or something. But when our MC plugged in his phone and saw it charging, he felt like a genius. He threw his arms up and basically told himself he had built the perfect setup for surviving in this nightmare world. For the first time in ages, he actually felt good. Yesterday, he'd also gathered up some luminous and ignition stones, and after more digging, he found a new mineral, emerus, that was even harder and sharper than obsidian. Sure, it was useless for now, but hey, free loot is free loot. He made a note to install LED lights later, but first, he needed to deal with all the food in his basement before crashing. Just then, Dingo started freaking out outside. Our hero ran out to see what was happening and found his dog face to face with some nasty maimed wolves. These weren't just regular wolves, bro. These things were straight out of the Sura game and usually lived way up in the mountains. So, what the hell were they doing here? Dingo looked pissed. And Seong-ho guessed these might be the same wolves that killed the puppy's mom. He tried to calm Dingo down, but honestly, he couldn't really take on a whole wolf pack right now. If he turned around to grab a better weapon, he might get jumped from behind, and that would be game over. So, our protagonist decided he needed to make the alpha wolf run away, and the rest would bounce too. He noticed these wolves only moved if their leader moved first, and they seemed super careful. He also remembered they had killer noses, crazy sensitive to smells. Luckily, our boy had pepper spray. If he sprayed the alpha, he could probably make it leave the area. But he was sweating because if he failed, he'd be dog food. He started thinking of ways to distract the wolf for a clean shot with the spray. Then, an idea hit him. He decided he was going to protect the hideout he worked so hard to build, no matter what. Without wasting time, he threw a knife at the alpha, but this wolf had moves and dodged it. Then, it lunged at our MC. Right when it got in his face, Seong-ho opened his portal and hit the wolf with the pepper spray. The alpha totally lost its cool, and right then, our boy stabbed it right in the eye. That was enough. The whole wolf pack panicked and ran off. He basically collapsed, breathing hard, but he was alive. Dingo ran over to check on him, and he pet his dog's head, promising to get revenge for Dingo's mom one day. Now, there were just 15 days left before the world ended. After all that, our hero went back to organizing the basement, and then he headed out to the hardware and pharmacy store to finish getting his defense gear. Bro had been awake for 68 hours straight now. Talk about living on the edge. Fighting off wolves while sleep-deprived? Insane. He even admitted to himself that if those wolves had been werewolves, he would have gotten totally wrecked. It hit him that he'd maybe gotten a little too chill, only worrying about nearby monsters and not thinking about the random crazy stuff that could show up. Feeling the pressure, he started dreaming about expanding his land and building a bigger, better shelter. His drone scouting trips agreed, so he was on the right track. While he was zoning out, Hyung-jun called out to him, snapping him back to reality. Song-ho was already planning to use Bluetooth beacons for more security, and now his friend was asking what he was doing out here. The MC just said he was there to buy a bunch of stuff. Jim Bro guessed he was there for weapons, which was kind of weird since they were standing outside a hardware store. But Hyung-jun said it wasn't him. It was some gorgeous new girl on their team who wanted the weapons. After shopping, Seong-ho found out that his buddy had bumped into her and was trying to stop her from buying weapons, but this girl did not care. She was stubborn as hell. Our MC figured it would be easier to just hand her his survival guide summary. But even after reading it, she just glared at him, cold as ice, and that was enough to freak our boy out. He called her out on it, and suddenly, she spoke up, remembering Seong-ho as the owner of the tteokbokki shop. Our MC admitted it, and she seemed super shocked by his new look and attitude. Seong-ho guessed she thought he was being rude, so he apologized, but she just reached for her wallet and handed him a card. This lady was Soo-yeon. And get this, she was actually a doctor. Smart and hot? What a combo! When he realized she was a doctor, Seong-ho explained the game basics to her just like he did for his other friends. But Soo-yeon didn't seem to care much. She said the game stuff didn't matter because it wasn't scientific anyway. Our MC agreed, telling her it was just some dumb game. But this lady wasn't done. She pointed out that he had to be an awakener himself. That hit Seong-ho a bit, but she was right. There was no way he could explain the game so well if he hadn't played it. Soo-yeon didn't push him more on it though, just thanked him for the info. Meanwhile, Hyung-jun was kind of salty that he hadn't explained things as well as our MC had. The doctor straight up told him that Seong-ho's knowledge was on another level, and Hyung-jun couldn't even compare. Soo-yeon thanked our protagonist for being a good person and decided to be friends. Another badass just joined the team. This dude's harem squad was really starting to look stacked. The next day, our boy was in his room cleaning his new spear blade. This weapon looked pretty sick, and he really wanted to see what it could do in a real fight. His setup was ready now, so he called over Dingo, the best dog ever, and explained their mission. He told the pup that they were going to get revenge for his mom. Okay, maybe it wasn't pure revenge, but it was more about protecting their secret base from any troublemakers. If random people found out about Seong-ho's base, that would be a total disaster. So, they needed to move fast and handle these threats before things got worse. A moment later, it looked like John Wick and his dog were about to go on a killing spree. On this job, Dingo had an important role. The two of them were staring down a wolf pack, but something was weird. There were only 4 wolves, and the alpha was nowhere to be seen. Seong-ho checked things out and finally realized what was happening. An owlbear was busy ripping apart a wolf, chowing down on its body. That beast had killed a few of them all on its own. Seong-ho thought the beast was actually making things easier by cleaning up some of these wolves. Here's the deal with these wolf packs. If the alpha dies, the whole group falls apart. They lose their leader, get super confused, and all their teamwork just vanishes. Our MC saw his chance. This was the perfect moment to pick them off one by one before they could regroup. Suddenly, one wolf rushed at him, but Seong-ho was ready for this. He threw out his web trap and caught the wolf like it was nothing. The wild, scary wolf was now more like a scared puppy, whimpering like it was about to get eaten. But our hero was all business. He finished the wolf off with his spear, not wasting time. Yeah, Maybe that sounded a little cold, but bro had a mission to do. That gave him 3 points. Nice. Now, the other 3 wolves noticed him and started to get crazy aggressive. They came at him together, 2 flanking from the sides and 1 jumping down from above like some parkour assassin. But our boy was not stressed. He blasted one with bug spray and dropped it, but the other 2 still came at him from both sides. The one on the right got a spear straight to the gut. The last wolf tried to use this opening to attack from behind, but Dingo came in clutch, tackling the wolf to protect his human bro. With another wolf down, Seong-ho got 3 more points. Now our MC got a little intense, kind of scary, and told himself he just needed to stab each one until none were left. Honestly, he wasn't the one in danger here. He was the danger. With all those wolves taken out, Seong-ho hit level 5. That's when things started getting spicy. His special gate ability got a buff. He checked it out and found 2 new features. First, his gate was now invisible to everyone else. Second, there was a new projection thing that let him hear sounds from any location he picked. To test it, he used his gate. This time, he could see right into his own house without having to step through. The transparency worked too, so nobody would ever notice his portal again. He used to worry he might accidentally jump into a dungeon without knowing if it was safe, but now, with the projection effect, he could scout first and stay safe. It looked like hitting level 5 actually gave him a big upgrade. He started to think maybe even these lower levels had cool hidden rewards. But whatever, he still had plenty to do, like burying all these wolf bodies before they caused more trouble. 2 days after dealing with the wolves, our boy checked off a ton of stuff from his to-do list. First, he went back to the other world and used his drone to scout a 1-kilometer zone. He found all sorts of animals, but nothing dangerous, no goblins, no kobolds, nothing. That made him feel a lot better about the area being safe for now. Next up, Seong-ho wanted info about a goblin nest about 30 kilometers away. This nest could have a bunch of hobgoblins, and fighting those guys would be tough as hell. But now that he felt confident his own spot was safe, he figured it was time to expand. Bro basically turned into Chainsaw Man, with Dingo as his Pochita, chopping down trees and clearing land to make his hideout bigger and stronger. That puppy was the MVP, helping to mark out a big circle for the new border. Our MC played it super safe by adding not just 1, but 2 layers of barbed wire and even starting a moat. He was planning to dig it 2 meters deeper to make any invader's life miserable. While working, he used his fancy projected portal to watch TV and keep up with real-world news. The government was now saying they would do a real investigation into awakened people. Back in the real world, Seong-ho kept busy buying more materials from hardware stores. He even hit up a bunch of home renovation shops for toolkits. On his way home, he checked out Kim Chul-jun's gang's hideout just in case. But that wasn't enough for this guy. He also went out of his way to rent a motorcycle and a mini excavator, thinking he could use those when he got more training. And let's not forget the blue toad. This little dude kept helping out. He carefully injected himself with small doses of its poison to build up resistance, and soon he had enough poison to combine with a weapon. Then, back in his room, something wild happened. He found out that Survivor 1, his old gaming buddy with like 4,500 hours in the game, had joined the Apocalypse mission. That news got Seong-ho thinking hard. He started suspecting that the Yoido shootout, the government's weird control of the media, and even the president hiding out all pointed to a bigger plot. He guessed that Survivor 1 was working with the president, trading game info for some huge, safe shelter. Survivor 1 always picked the highest value targets to team up with. It was complicated. Seong-ho wondered if it was all just a bluff, but my dream didn't fit into this plan. All this thinking was starting to give our poor guy a headache. Still, he made a decision. If Survivor 1 and my dream were working together, then it was time for Seong-ho to switch up his game plan too. The next day, our boy was up to some sneaky business again. He needed to make a new VR score and a fake ID, hoping someone named My Dream would answer. He kind of joked that these gamers never have jobs, so maybe this guy would reply fast. And guess what? He was totally right. Mysterious guy answered almost instantly. Bro was probably glued to his computer all day. But Seong-ho wasn't sure if this dude was for real, so he wanted to meet him in VR and check him out face to face. They both loaded into this weird white room, which was straight out of some anime. My dream came in already annoyed because Seong-ho was using a new fake name and, to make things worse, wore a dumb duck face mask. That man complained about it, but our MC just shrugged it off. He didn't care, and honestly, he enjoyed making the other guy mad. My dream figured that anyone hiding their face like this must be a veteran gamer. Still, he needed to test him first. He hit Seong-ho with 3 tough questions to see if he really knew his stuff. First, he asked about the maximum jump height of a werewolf. Our boy answered right away, 3 meters. Then, he wanted to know an owlbear's weakness. Song-ho said, bright light, without even thinking about it. The last question was about how zombies evolve. Our MC explained that these zombies didn't spread infection, like in movies. Instead, they ate nutrients to get stronger, turning into ghouls, and sometimes they even became enhanced zombies before that. My dream was impressed, but then he dropped a surprise 4th question, even though he said 3 was enough. He wanted to know the exact number of special events in the story's world. Seong-ho was not about to give away all his secrets and refused. This made that sus guy laugh, finally admitting that Seong-ho was the real deal. Our hero was kind of annoyed now, so he told My Dream to get Survivor 1 on the call too. But the sus guy said that wasn't possible right now and didn't even give a reason, which sounded like total BS. Our boy called him out and said it was crap. Suddenly, My Dream acted all mysterious, tipping his imaginary hat and hinting that something big was about to go down. Seong-ho started to wonder if this dude was just stalling for time, or maybe he was totally nuts. But then, out of nowhere, Seong-ho got a bad feeling. He realized this mysterious guy was doing something dirty. He was actually doxing him right there, trying to find his real identity. At the same time, back in the real world, a guy walked into Seong-ho's internet cafe, bringing 2 security guards with him. The man ordered the guards to lock all the doors. The receptionist tried to tell him that he needed to pay for his computer time, but this guy just grabbed her arm and made it clear they weren't here to play games, but to find someone. Seong-ho noticed that this was supposed to be a chill, undercover mission, but this crew was going full crazy. To make things even weirder, the dude had a power like Lelouch from Code Geass, meaning he could actually mind control people. Yeah, that was bad news for our protagonist. Now, our boy was in big trouble and needed to get out, fast. So, he ran into the restroom and used his dimensional gate ability. Meanwhile, My Dream and his guys were going around the cafe, using their mind power on everyone, hunting for Seong-ho. They went through every spot and finally reached the restroom, thinking he must be hiding there. This dude was cocky, sure, but he could catch an assassin hiding in a stall. He even joked in his head that maybe he'd just find a random dude taking a dump. To check for any tricks, My Dream splashed water around the bathroom, hoping it would reveal anything invisible, and waved his hands all over, searching for something weird. The wild part was that our MC had actually opened his portal right against the wall, so My Dream was basically staring right at it, but the guy couldn't see a thing. After checking everything, this man admitted that Seong-ho was definitely not using stealth skills, so maybe he was someone who could move or teleport instead. Then, he told his goons to search every last corner and promised a big reward for anyone who caught our protagonist. While all this was going on, Seong-ho watched them through his portal and thought about his situation. He reflected that even though he was kind of rich in real life and pretty humble in the game, he never wanted things to end up like this. But he also realized that My Dream had made everything clear. He'd been stuck trying to decide what kind of person to be, but now, thanks to this mess, he knew. He was done running away. If people wanted trouble, he would fight back, no more holding back. So while these idiots kept searching, thinking he was some movement specialist, Seong-ho planned his move. Then, like a total boss, he popped out from behind My Dream and hit him with a high, scaring the crap out of him. This sus guy saw him in the mirror, but it was too late. Our boy lunged with a poisonous spear, slashing him in the leg. That poison worked fast, and My Dream's body started giving out. Honestly, this dude had been trying to show off with his mind powers, but one slip-up and he was done. Seong-ho smashed his face against the wall, warning him not to mess around and making fun of how much the poison hurt. Every time My Dream tried to say something, he just shut him down, telling him to keep quiet. He gripped his blade, explained that the apocalypse hadn't even started yet, and neither had the real murder system. Then, he cut the guy's gun off his belt and got really serious. He said that killing this guy right now wouldn't even get him in trouble. The blade hovered next to the guy's neck, but My Dream finally got the message and shut up. With the poison working, the mysterious guy's body just flopped down even though he was still awake. He was completely helpless, like a monster ready to be farmed for loot. Seong-ho started his own interrogation and wanted to know why this guy tried to sell out Survivor 1 and target innocent people. Now, the hunter was just prey. My Dream could only curse at him. So, our hero stole his gun and warned him that this was what happens if you even think about capturing him. He finished by telling the guy that if they ever ran into each other again, he wouldn't hold back. He'd kill him. Then, he slipped out of the cafe long before My Dream's gang even realized what had happened. Back at his own place, our hero finally got a chance to breathe. He didn't waste any time, he jumped straight into his portal and went to the other world. There, he sat down and took apart the gun he stole from that mind control jerk. While he worked, he checked the guy's ID. Turns out, this dude's real name was Kwon Kyung-jun. He was in his late 30s, managed a whole golf club, and even secretly ran 3 bunkers through his business. Not only that, but bro was also some kind of sugar daddy, which explained how he got all the good stuff. Seong-ho figured that anyone like Kwon, who'd spent thousands of hours in the Sura game, probably had a busted power. Mind control was the obvious guess. That sort of skill was no joke. Of course, just having thousands of hours in a game didn't mean someone would be OP. Even the biggest no-lifers in games like Valorant or Counter-Strike could grind forever and still be stuck in bronze. The world of Sura was different. It always respected survival above all. That's why our boy's own portal ability was like a cheat code, especially if you were a veteran. But this was just a theory for now. He wanted to check out another veteran's skill before he got too cocky. After that, he tested the gun a couple of times, making sure it worked, and thought about how soon the apocalypse would hit. Suddenly, a notification sound is heard behind the portal. He checked it, and it turns out the second precursor phenomenon, the Goblin Assault, has begun at Mount Gaesan. Without waiting long, our protagonist immediately went there. He parked the car and got out with his beloved dog. He thought that the police would start observing the area, and since the goblins would definitely build a temporary nest there. Then, his genius pup led the way as they set out into the forest. It didn't take long for Dingo to bark like crazy at something up ahead. When Seong-ho got there, he found a whole mess. Dead police officers, along with a bunch of dead goblins. That was pretty wild, even for our MC. He kept calm and checked the bodies. Shockingly, one of the cops was still alive. He wasn't badly hurt, but he'd been hit with some kind of paralysis poison. What really bugged our boy, though, was that this cop didn't have a gun on him. Maybe he never even had one. But Seong-ho doubted it. He moved both bodies together and told the poor guys to chill there for 30 minutes, since the paralysis would wear off by then. Then, he peeped at the goblin corpses and noticed a bunch of bullet holes. So, the cops definitely had a gun at some point. So what the hell happened to it? After thinking for a while, our hero realized this was probably the work of a gold goblin, a rare monster that stole stuff. Instead of getting freaked out, he got hyped. That was exactly the kind of monster he wanted to hunt down himself. With a new plan in his head, he used his phone to call emergency services, left a note with the exact location, and even added instructions for someone to bury the goblin bodies. Monsters were already showing up in public, so there was no point trying to play ninja anymore. Right now, it was all about time, and this little goblin thief might actually help him out if he played it smart. Meanwhile, not too far away, another group was fighting for their lives. A regular dude who didn't even have powers was swinging at a goblin but missing hard. The goblin dodged and took off. Their squad still had 3 goblins left to deal with. The powerless guy started whining to his captain, wondering why the hell he was playing the tanker when he had 0 abilities. The captain, who did have some kind of psychokinesis, wasn't too worried. He had a pile of rocks ready and started chucking them at the goblins, smashing one up pretty good. The regular guy wanted to know when their backup was coming, but the captain said the rest of the party went up Gasan Mountain and got blocked from climbing up. This was super bad news for the little guy. He wanted to run, but his captain said they had to keep going. Just as things got ugly, with 3 goblins ganging up on the powerless dude, the captain started blasting more rocks to save him. At least these goblins weren't as strong as the ones from the game, so there was a tiny bit of hope. The captain told his buddy to keep his cool and stick to the plan. If they could beat these monsters and catch the hobgoblin group, they'd get a big advantage. But of course, things never go easily. While he was busy with his speech, a monster whacked him with a mace, totally wrecking his hand. Now, the poor dude couldn't use his power anymore. Even the most average goblin outplayed him like a pro. Honestly, if that were me, I'd just quit right there. With no powers and no backup, the 2 guys were backed into a corner. The 3 goblins surrounded them and got ready to attack from every direction. It really looked like game over for these newbies. But then, out of nowhere, an arrow whizzed through the trees and nailed a goblin straight in the head. A second and third arrow hit the other 2, injuring them and sending everyone into a panic. The 2 humans looked around, totally lost, trying to figure out where the hell those arrows came from. A minute later, our hero holding his combat bow, hidden behind the portal. He wondered for a second if helping out was a waste of his precious ammo, but then he remembered. He just confirmed some important stuff. First, he learned that Awakeners were being stopped from climbing the mountain. Second, he ran into a group of weak, cunning monsters. With this new info, he started hatching a plan. His idea was simple but genius. First, he would throw a rock to piss off a goblin. Rage bait. Easy. After that, he'd use his portal to lead the angry goblin close, staying totally hidden. Then, while watching through his invisible gate, he'd attack from the other side and get a free shot. After stabbing the goblin, he'd yank his spear back through the portal, erasing any evidence that he was ever there. The best part? The hobgoblin had a high perception stat, so it would see its dead underling and immediately command the other monsters to search the killer. That would cause total confusion, making them easy to attack. Once they were distracted and fighting, Song Ho would appear again and chop their heads off, using the same sneaky move over and over. Honestly, it was a dirty trick, but that's what happens when a veteran gamer gets a cheat skill in real life. Our boy was feeling pretty good about his sneaky plan. But of course, things never stayed easy for the poor guy. He was trying to mess with goblin brains and start a fight between them. But suddenly the hobgoblin turned right toward him. At the same time, the gold goblin made a run for it with all the loot. That was not what our MC wanted to see. This meant that those two monsters had a huge argument, and now he was standing in the worst spot possible. And things got even worse, bro. The big boss was not just big, it was fast as hell. Captain Mustard, yeah, that's what we're calling him, charged right at Seong Ho, swinging that nasty mace. Our hero had no choice. He tried his best to block the hit, but the impact sent him flying right into a tree. I gotta say, that probably hurt like crazy. Now he was shaking, beaten up, and barely standing. It looked like he was about to get his brain smashed in for real. The hobgoblin wasn't wasting any time either. It rushed in, ready to finish the job. If Song Ho went down now, he was totally cooked, extra crispy, bro. Just as the monster's weapon came for his head, something insane happened. Our MC's health dropped so low that his special skill, Survival Instinct, kicked in. A yellow light flashed, and suddenly Seong Ho reacted like a wild animal. But get this, he didn't attack the big monster. Nope. Instead, he turned and sprinted after the gold goblin, who was trying to escape with all the stolen stuff. Using the mind control guy's gun, he aimed at the monster's head and popped it with one clean shot. Headshot. Easy mode. The gold goblin dropped, and Seong Ho snatched back the loot, but our hero wasn't chilling yet. With the hobgoblin charging again, Song Ho called out his dimensional gate. He still had to deal with the angry boss monster chasing him. So, what did our boy do? He whipped out his gun and started blasting, John Wick style, even though it was totally a melee fight. The big boss just couldn't handle the smoke. Seong Ho slashed it up with some serious style, cutting into that ugly thing until it finally screamed and dropped dead. Level up, baby! He hit level 6 and got 18 points for his troubles. He even picked up a new skill, Terrain Sense. Now he could sense all the stuff around him, which was pretty sick. And, just like last time, all the weapons he used got an upgrade and turned into real, special items. But the man couldn't relax. He heard a search party coming, so he grabbed his gear, warped back through his portal, and made a clean escape. The only thing on his mind was hiding out and getting some rest before people started poking around. The next day, Dingo, everybody's favorite dog, woke him up. Seong Ho checked his watch and realized he had slept for a whole day. No surprise, since he got wrecked yesterday. He made a note to himself. Only use Survival Instinct when things were really, really bad, because the after effects were no joke. Before heading out on his next mission, our MC wanted to see what kind of loot he pulled from the gold goblin. He dumped everything onto the table, a couple of revolvers, a dagger, and a pile of random goblin stuff. Not too shabby, right? The revolver was fine. But the real jackpot was the mithril knife. This thing was legendary, a weapon that would never rust or break, even when the world's metal turned to dust. Only a handful of items in the game had that kind of power, and this knife was worth 100 points in the shop. But how the hell did a goblin get such a crazy rare item? Seong Ho looked over the blade and saw it wasn't perfect. There were some flaws. Still, it got him thinking. The cunning monsters here were running around with metal weapons. No way they made those themselves. Maybe something big had changed in their world. Maybe there were smart goblin scientists out there doing some wild experiments. Our boy had no proof, so he decided to shelve that theory for now. He switched focus to the little pouches. Jackpot again. He found a bunch of shade grapes. These boosted night vision if you ate them. And just carrying them explained why goblins always moved so well in the dark. Seong Ho checked his status window and grinned. His growth was way faster than in the game, and that was a good sign. With all the loot sorted and stats looking good, our MC decided it was time to head back to the normal world. He opened the portal and scrolled through his phone while he walked through. The second he got a signal, his phone went nuts. Everybody wanted to check on him. Hyungjun, Mi Kyung, even the new doc, Soo-yeon. Our boy started to wonder if he was finally the cool guy in the group. Before anything else, he made his way to the gym. He swung open the door and found his friends waiting. They all rushed to greet him, looking super happy that he was still alive. Even I gotta admit, that was wholesome. Seong-ho noticed some new faces and asked about them. Hyung-jun introduced his party members, Lee Kong-hun and Kim Bora. They all said hello and got along like a real squad. Our boy was expecting one more new team member, but apparently, that guy was busy shopping for camping gear at a discount store. The poor guy couldn't believe a place like that existed. But Mi-kyung told him it was actually super nice and really modern. Jim Bro asked Seong-ho if he had seen the crazy news lately, and our MC told him he was all caught up. He already watched it all on YouTube. Apparently, there was that same doctor from the Gaesan Mountain incident who panicked on TV and told everyone to get ready for the literal end of the world. Now, even the president was on the news, holding national meetings and trying to track down the creator of the game. Bro, the world was getting even crazier, but at least our MC had survived another day. Hyung-jun wanted to know what Seong-ho's next big move was. Everyone there was pretty much gathered, because our boy knew the game better than anyone. But Kong-hun, this loud dude in the group, was rolling his eyes. He grumbled that the gym guy kept asking for advice even though it was super obvious. Everyone knew killing goblins got you points. So if an awakened person took down a monster, they'd just jump straight from level 1 to 2. For him, that meant the only real plan was to gather up as many supplies as possible. The guy was talking like he knew everything, but honestly, he was just making stuff up and had no clue how wrong he was. Seong-ho finally spoke up and let him know that none of that was right. But before our MC could even finish, Kong-hun cut him off, acting like some stubborn Reddit troll who couldn't hear anything but his own voice. He demanded to know if Seong-ho had even played the game. Our boy denied it. He needed to keep his secret, after all. But that just made Kong-hun run his mouth even more, saying, "You shouldn't just trust random people online if they don't even play." Bora, the other girl in the squad, jumped in next. She was super curious about zombies and wanted to know how the infection really spread. She pressed Kong-hun for details, asking what the conditions were to get infected. And bro, this annoying guy answered with the dumbest thing. He claimed that anyone who had ever touched an awakened person would never turn into a zombie. Like, what? That was straight up nonsense. But the dude slammed his hand on the table, super proud of himself, and stood up like he was the main character. Just because he was awakened, he thought he had all the answers. He bragged that even if a normal person hung out with him, they'd be safe from the spores. Total clown behavior, but Bora looked impressed and stuck close to him like he was some genius. Then Mi-kyung stepped in and asked if Kong-hun had cleared the hardest tutorial. She barely got the words out before he cut her off again, telling her not to worry because he'd protect her anyway. Our MC was getting so annoyed with this guy's act. He had to admit that the guy's theory wasn't the worst on the planet, but there was absolutely no proof that awakened people were fully immune to the zombie stuff. The whole chat was killed by one dude's ego, and Seong-ho finally understood why Hyung-jun dragged him here in the first place. Not wanting to waste more time on Kong-hun's nonsense, our boy got up to leave. Both his friends tried to get him to stay, but he was done handing out free tips to a troll. He told the squad he'd see them around and bounced. Outside, our hero started making a list of all the places he could go point hunting before the iron disease hit. He was actually pretty interested in that fancy camping gear store his friends mentioned. After running through all his plans, he got home and, guess what? Found Soo-yeon waiting for him. The elegant doc actually had something for him. She pulled out a pouch, but inside it wasn't just a first aid kit. It was loaded with painkillers and antibiotics you usually can't get unless you're dying or super rich. That was a big deal. The kit also contained a piece of paper with her address written on it, all casual, like it was totally normal. That really confused our poor guy. But the doc thought it was only fair to share her location since she knew where he lived. For real, I'm totally on Team Soo-yeon, bro. Anyway, Soo-yeon said goodbye and hurried off to her appointment. Then she suddenly turned back, flashed him a smile, and reminded him not to forget to pay for the medicine. So yeah, she gave her address for a reason. After that, our MC was just left standing there, totally lost. He really couldn't figure out what this doctor was thinking. After they split up, time just flew. Our boy spent hours running around the city, hitting up stores and grabbing supplies. Then he built a real storage facility and finished it off with some sandwich panels before loading all his stuff inside. Remember that mini excavator he rented? He worked that thing like a pro, getting his construction done fast. Meanwhile, the world was spinning out of control, people panicking, politicians fighting, and everyone arguing about what was true. It got so bad that the UN called an emergency meeting about the US president coming to Korea. That's when the HSA finally realized things were about to get way worse than they thought. The asteroid that kicks off the zombie era was burning through the sky and heading straight for Earth. 4 days went by, and Seong-ho found himself at Gamcheon Port, staring at the ocean. This was where the next big backstory event was about to drop, the Russian ship event. After checking that nobody was around, our MC slipped into an abandoned building and opened his gate, ready to prep for what came next. He explained to himself that even though the risk of turning into a zombie was huge here, he wanted those guns on the ship. The zombie spores worked as particle beams, not something you could just dodge. Honestly, turning into a zombie here or a few days later didn't really matter, especially for a guy with no family left. He figured he could survive in the other world with Dingo forever, but what kind of life would that be? Seong-ho knew this wasn't some death wish. He was just making a move that most people would never dare. He wanted to take the risky path to get big rewards. That's just how he saw life. He checked the patch notes for this event, guessing that the 10-point weapon was probably an ebony club, but he wondered just how weak the zombies really were at this point in the game. After the asteroid landed, point values would change too. The guide was written with so much confidence, it freaked him out. The game creator totally expected this mess. Our MC was messing with his phone when things got even worse. He got an emergency alert, a tsunami warning linked to the next big event. In the next moment, the water started eating up the coast, getting higher every second. Out at sea, a ship was getting ragdolled by the waves. Seong-ho realized the city was flooding. He thought it was better to deal with zombies and monsters than natural disasters. As he watched the chaos, he thought about how powerless people really felt during disasters. But he didn't have the luxury of freezing up. He grabbed his boat and sprinted full speed, supporting it as he jumped straight off a building, no time to waste. He had to finish this job before the government goons arrived. Eventually, he reached the ship, anchored himself, and got ready. So far, so good. Here's the kicker. Awakeners like him don't turn into zombies. Turns out, Kong Hun's dumb theory was actually right about that. Seong-ho didn't even feel that gross zombie itch that would mean infection. That was already a win. Now, he climbed a ladder onto the ship, ready to move on to the next part of his insane plan. Our boy Seong-ho was on the ship, ready for some zombie smashing action. He didn't even bother sneaking around. He actually called out to the zombies, like he was ringing the dinner bell for trouble. And check it, this dude was rocking shorts, a shield, and a mace, looking like a Power Ranger on summer break. Seriously, the vibe was nuts. Now, zombies in this game were always freaky because they treated everything around them as food. The infection part? Yeah. In the game, they couldn't really spread it, but if they ate enough, they would get seriously buff. Anyway, our MC charged right at the first zombie and floored it with his shield. Then, grinning like some battle-crazy streamer, he held up his mace and begged the zombie to brace its jaw. Yeah, as the zombie could even understand him. Well, he gave it an insane makeover, smashing its head in with one swing. Honestly, the first 2 zombies were way too easy. Our hero started wondering if someone had nerfed these guys. He even remembered that back in the day, you needed 2 or 3 hits to drop a zombie, but now, just 1. Still, after what happened with the orcs, he was not about to let his guard down. Guy learned his lesson the hard way, and making the same mistake twice would get him killed for real. Next, our MC peeked down the hallway and spotted a bunch of zombies just wandering around, trapped in a room. He didn't waste time, just strolled up and started bullying them left and right with his new gear. But he wasn't really here for zombie points. What he wanted was a pistol. So he headed straight toward the ship's wheelhouse, all focused, until suddenly a loud gunshot rang out. That made him freeze. No way someone else survived the zombie mess on this ship. Cautious but curious, he rushed towards the sound, thinking maybe some normal dude just got super lucky. After all, if a regular person hung out with an awakener, sometimes they could dodge the infection by pure luck. If this person survived, Seong-ho wanted all the info he could get. But when he arrived, the poor dude was already dead, clutching a photo of someone he loved. That was rough, bro. For a second, our MC felt like he was in some sad anime, but there was nothing he could do now. Still, at least the guy had a gun, which was exactly what Seong-ho needed. He carefully laid the dead man flat, giving him a bit of respect, and left. This kind of tragedy was only going to get more common, and our boy knew he'd be forced to make hard choices if he wanted to survive. Sometimes, you even had to go against your own kind just to make it through. So, while untying the ship's anchor, Seong-ho spotted something straight up insane. Someone was jet skiing past the ship. Yup, another player here to earn points, just like him. They barely looked at each other. He was already done with the ship. He had what he needed, and he bounced, not caring at all about what the other guy was doing. The next morning came early. The news was all about how the game developer who made all this chaos had gone missing. Nobody could find the dude for answers. The president, though, wasn't wasting time. Now that there was proof about zombies, he was making big moves and acting fast. Seong-ho noticed that the president was actually thinking just like him. Take action first. Don't wait for permission. Our hero decided it was time to share some critical info, so he called up Lee Woo-bam, the big boss at the countermeasure headquarters. Seong-ho dropped a total bombshell. He told Woo-bam the exact time the world was going to end. To prove he was legit, our MC mentioned the gunshot wounds he'd put in the hobgoblin before. That got the official all freaked out. He realized this was the real deal. Seong-ho made him write down the date, the hour, and even some details about a package that was coming in the afternoon. He hoped their government squad would get their act together and wished them luck. Good luck, because, bro, they were gonna need it. After that call, things got way more serious. The president dropped some huge news, telling everyone online that people needed to stock up on food and water for 4 days and get back to their families. The military was out in force, telling people to stop all activities and go home. A real statement would come out on July 20th. Seong-ho watched all of this go down and thought it was actually the perfect move. Part of him felt a bit bad for not giving the government more of a heads up sooner. If he'd known they were going to handle it this well, he would have gone all out on his plans right from the start. But in the end, he knew nothing could have stopped this disaster anyway. No reason to dwell on the past? He made himself remember his #1 rule. He wasn't here to be a hero. He was just an ordinary guy trying to survive. After the lockdowns and quarantines hit, the whole world basically froze up. Nobody could go anywhere. So our MC spent his days over in the other world. Way safer, honestly. 3 days before Doomsday, Seong-ho finished digging out his base, but it took forever. He also downloaded a ton of cooking and farming videos, because soon the internet would be gone for good. 2 days before, he went out scouting with Dingo and scored a bunch of golden apples. He started wondering if this land was enchanted or something, because, dude, those apples were rare. But then, a day before the apocalypse, he found something weird. 2 packs of sweet potato jellies were missing from his storage, but someone left a dried grape behind. First thought, Dingo was the thief. But when Seong-ho tried to grill, the poor pup cried and tried to prove his innocence. Bro, justice for Dingo. He did nothing wrong. Finally, our MC checked the CCTV and nearly lost it. A bunch of beetles had come in through the doggy door, stole the jellies, and left the grape as payment. And get this, the beetle even looked back and thanked the camera. That was the cutest thing ever. Now he was super curious about these tiny geniuses. Just to be safe though, he locked the doggy door, even if his puppy was bummed. He couldn't mess around anymore, because soon, guests would be showing up. Time to open the dimensional gate and head back. Next thing we know, Seong-ho was at the table with his whole crew. He was shocked that everyone made it, even with the lockdown. But there was a new face, some fancy guy named Yu-yeon, and he was already awakened. He didn't know much about the game, but he was an electrical engineering student and had a ton of practical skills. Seong-ho loved having this guy on board and introduced himself as a regular, non-awakened dude. Gotta keep the secrets safe, right? Both guys were super polite to each other, but there was no time to waste. Seong-ho wanted everyone to share any new info they had, one by one. First up was Hyung-jun, the gym bro. He talked about trying to find his daughter when the phones went out, but instead, he found highways full of barricades. Apparently, the government was evacuating people near the petrochemical plant. Then it was Soo-yeon's turn. The doctor said she saw a shelter being built in the local park. It sounded wild, but she swore it was true. Next up was Mi-kyung. She had been at the mart, where she overheard that some high-ranking officials were mad about the president's decision, but all those big shots got detained right away. So, yeah, everyone was sharing their piece of the puzzle. The world was ending, but at least our MC had a team that was ready. So, our MC thought this was just a regular meeting with the crew, but damn, the stuff they all brought to the table was way more important than he expected. The world was about to end, and even the president seemed to know what was coming, judging by the big moves he'd made. Seong-ho started thinking about why the president did things so carefully, asking people for info one by one. It was simple. If you wanted to control a network, you had to have a real reason for every decision. Sure, he could have just told everyone he was a veteran and bossed them around, but that would have put a huge target on his back. Anyway, Seong-ho told the group to listen up because he was about to drop some truth bombs. He said he figured out that the president's real goal was to control how the apocalypse played out. This totally shocked everyone, like, you could practically hear their brains breaking. He explained his logic, pointing out the crazy lockdowns and how everything in the country had suddenly stopped. There was only one reason for that. The government knew exactly when the world was going to crash and burn. Soo-yeon, being the smart doc she was, realized right away that the end was almost here. She guessed the government was sure of the exact doomsday, and our hero confirmed it, calling July 20th the date of the apocalypse. Yoo-yeon totally freaked out and tried to run off to call his family, but Seong-ho yelled at him to sit down. Might have been harsh, but he was not about to let these people lose their cool now. He reminded the squad that any one of them could be a zombie by tomorrow, so they needed to get serious. Then Seong-ho pulled out a pile of files, finally explaining why he'd called everyone here. He had a plan for the tutorial phase and tons of survival info. Hyung-jun gave him a look and asked where he got all this secret stuff, so our MC just said he watched the streams. He even apologized to Mi-kyung for lying, but she just laughed it off since she'd been lying too. The point was, these files would help, but only if everyone followed the instructions to the letter. He practically begged them to stick to the guide, at least until the first round was clear. So, the meeting ended, and midnight showed up like a final boss. This was literally the last peaceful night before the world turned into a horror movie hell. Seong-ho had been grinding for 32 days straight, training every skill he could, but he still felt like some stuff wasn't perfect. He worried that hiding his real identity might come back to bite him, but he had zero regrets. He'd done his best, and that was it. That night, our boy watched as his whole country launched missiles right at the asteroid. He saw the explosion as the missile hit, and for a second, he wondered if this was really the end, like, was there any way out of it for humanity? Well, the answer was clear. The apocalypse had officially started. When morning came, the lockdown was gone. Seong-ho finished his prep work, slapping bulletproof glass and super strong doors everywhere. He kept up his wild routine, even injecting himself with a little poison just to toughen up. And get this, bro did 300 push-ups while poisoned. Who does that? Saitama from One Punch Man would be jealous for real. Once he finished his insane workout, he switched into some fresh combat gear and sat down for breakfast with his loyal dog Dingo, acting totally chill while waiting for the president's big announcement at 9 a.m. He even nodded off for a bit, but when the TV came on, the president gave the speech of a lifetime. Martial law, closed roads, and a full lockdown. Seong-ho couldn't help but feel respect for the guy. No one else could have ended Korea on a better note. Still, this was goodbye to the old world. Whether he liked it or not, humanity would have to eat this disaster and try to survive. At least this time, our MC wasn't some clueless newbie. He was rolling into the end of days like a hardened pro. 4 hours left until the spores would hit the world. Seong-ho spent half that time in the other world, checking on all his farmed resources and setting up gear for life after the iron disease. While he was being productive, society was ripping itself apart. People started fighting in the streets, and nobody cared about the laws anymore. Some chubby dude was running around with his butt out, just asking for trouble, until a car ran him over. Yep, that was his apocalypse speedrun right there. Other people just started killing for fun, like it was all some messed up game. And bro, side note, if you were there, how would you handle the end of the world? Drop your answer in the comments, I'm dying to know. Meanwhile, a bunch of punks were out joyriding, not even caring that a guy just died. One of them said it was fine to ditch the car anyway, since the iron disease would ruin all the vehicles soon. Another punk waved a bat up at someone spying from the rooftop, calling him out. Turns out, this punk had a grudge against Seong-ho and wanted to use him for points. Wild, how people show their true selves at the end, right? He watched all this, and even noticed official flyers raining down from the sky. The government was still worried about its people, even now. Kind of touching, honestly. Seong-ho knew he wasn't that selfless. He believed in putting his own survival first, even if that made him a little cold. He figured most folks could never live up to that whole save everyone standard. Anyway, time for him to get back to business. Just a few minutes left on the clock before the spores crashed down from space. Our hero had air tanks ready, but even he didn't know if it was enough. He'd memorized every useful route out of the city for supply runs. Checking his watch, he wondered if he'd ever forget to take it off. Then he shook it off and just put his helmet on. All that was left was to get ready. At exactly 1 p.m., the spores landed. Seong-ho took a deep breath, started his bike, and hoped his whole plan wouldn't blow up in his face. Right away, the infection started spreading. The spores sucked the life out of people, turning them into disgusting, purple, flesh-eating monsters. These zombies were drawn to any kind of noise. Seong-ho dodged a few and realized there weren't that many outside. That actually made sense. Most people were home, turning into zombies with their families. The strange part was wondering who managed to stay human. But bro, the streets were clear, which was great for a loot run. He took a shortcut, planning to avoid zombies and focus on farming. The stores were still locked up tight, so he smashed the glass with a sledgehammer and rolled inside. He quickly shouted at his portal, knowing he had to make every second count. He grabbed everything he could, especially medicine. There's no harm in hoarding for survival, right? The good news? He was way ahead of schedule, grabbing stuff even faster than he planned. But then, at the hardware store, he saw double security doors. No problem for our boy. He brought oxygen tanks for just this reason. He fired up the cutter, but the thing screamed like a banshee. The second he heard that noise, he remembered, zombies may be dumb, but they're not deaf. Sure enough, he turned around and saw an entire horde closing in on him. Looks like Seong-ho just triggered hard mode. Good luck, bro. You're gonna need it. Anyway, these zombies were super weak at the start, before they got to eat anything or get any nutrition. But never mind, our hero didn't look scared at all. The zombies were growling and getting closer, but he kept striking them with his big, spiky mace, which looked totally insane. Even after the zombies got nerfed, a newbie could beat them if they knew where to hit. Seong-ho started swinging that mace like a pro, smashing zombies left and right. Purple blood was flying everywhere, and zombie heads were crushed. Dude, it was actually kind of gross, but you couldn't look away. Real life was actually easier than the game now, and earning points was simple. Every time a zombie died, a blue message popped up. Our MC was racking up points like he was on a high-score run. But then, more zombies showed up, because of course they did. Seong-ho started thinking, like, what should he do about this mess? Usually, the move would be to lure them into an alley and pick them off one by one. But our hero was dragging that heavy oxygen tank, which made things way harder. He decided that, since he had an oxygen cutter, he'd just use it on all the zombies at once. While he was getting ready, he started talking trash, saying the only reason he ever avoided zombies before was that he didn't want to waste time farming, not because he was scared. Our dude was acting tough, but honestly, that was kinda cool. He charged in with his oxygen cutter, cutting zombies while thinking about how he'd spent over 5,500 hours in that trash game. There were no real monsters here, just weak zombies. He basically said that there was no way he would lose to them. After dropping the last zombie, our MC said it was kind of fun and told the zombies to take this as his gift. Then he lit up the oxygen cutter and said he'd send them out with a bang. Dude, you gotta love his style. When it was all over, Seong-ho finished picking through the hardware store. He rode his bike with a cart full of supplies and then headed to the police station. But bad luck, by the time he got there, the armory was already cleaned out. Our poor guy was one step too late. But before he could start whining, he found a corpse in the parking lot with a backpack. Jackpot, bro. Inside it were a gun, ammo, and a bunch of gear. Our MC looked pretty happy about that. After that, he moved to his fourth spot to grab more loot. Things were still under control. With his new terrain detection skill and bonus stats from his loot, he could dodge zombies super easily. The guy was like a ninja, zigzagging around the slow, stupid zombies. He made it to a motorcycle shop, but of course, everyone else had the same idea. There was only one ATV left, so he threw it into storage with some supplies. Perfect choice, since an ATV is a ride that can go off-road. Then, Seong-ho checked out his stats and his otherworld dude was already level 6 with some nice upgrades, but he was feeling a bit tired and thirsty. He took a short rest, ate a glowing apple, and cleared his debuffs. He even thought that his dimensional gate skill was totally busted, but in a good way. Back in the real world, Seong-ho was thinking about where to loot next, but before he could decide, a couple of troublemakers pulled up. In-ho, a blonde dude with tattoos, and his buddy. They both glared at Song-ho as they'd finally found a big jackpot. Yun-ho yelled that they'd been looking for him, and his friend told Seong-ho that if he didn't have powers, he should have just stayed home. His hand was crackling with electricity. The dude was acting like a boss, but honestly, he looked like someone who would cry if you yelled at him. Then, the punk blasted an electric attack at Seong-ho, but our hero dodged it. Still, the poor guy hit the ground pretty hard. He started thinking that these dudes were way too obsessed with him and wondered what he should do next. He looked at his hand, which was glowing blue, and decided to open the dimensional gate. In-ho told his nervous friend to keep watch for zombies. Seong-ho figured that no matter how he dodged, finishing these guys would be easy. The bastard started trash-talking, asking if Seong-ho was ready to die. But Seong-ho knew that, since the tutorial hadn't even started, the system wouldn't call him a murderer, even if he took them out. Even if it did, he'd just get a warning for his first kill, so whatever. In-ho looked pretty confused, asking where Seong-ho had gone after the attack. Our hero was hiding, thinking that maybe it wasn't okay to kill someone in real life. But in the next second, our MC moved like lightning and had Inho in a tight chokehold. That jerk started whining, asking if Song-ho was an awakener. Seong-ho told him to shut up and asked why they were after him. Inho said it was because he took the girl Seong-ho liked. He means Mi Kyung. Our MC squeezed harder and asked what he meant. Inho kept talking trash, saying Seong-ho was just jealous and already knew what happened with the girl. Bad move, bro. Seong-ho knocked him around, then gave him one last chance to not be a total loser. Inho just laughed and told our boy they were the same, both here to steal stuff. He called Seong-ho trash and a dumbass. So this bastard grabbed his crossbow, then shot it in the head. But our boy could easily dodge that. That's a sucky accuracy. Then, our hero looked at the injured Inho and said in his head, yeah, maybe he really was just trash like Inho. When that scum started begging for his life, Seong-ho admitted to himself that he just didn't want to face the truth. A message popped up. He got 50 points for the kill. But he felt disgusted. He thought that even after fighting hundreds of death matches in Sura, killing a real person felt way dirtier. That's when his buddy showed up, screaming and freaking out. Seong-ho told him to watch his back, and that poor guy got all confused, wondering what that meant. Then he turned around and, bro, a whole pack of zombies was right behind him. The poor guy screamed like a baby as the zombies jumped him and started tearing him apart. Song-ho didn't flinch. He stood there cold as ice, thinking that people like those two scumbags, who only cared about themselves, totally deserved to die in an apocalypse. And that's how our MC finished his bloody day, looking like a badass who had seen way too much. Anyway, let's talk about the murderer system. This was something added about 3 months after the start of that messed up game, just to stop trolls from going wild. Good idea. But wow, the rules were all over the place. When you murder someone for the first time, the system only gives you a warning because the developers were scared of losing players. All the system did was flash a blue screen and warn the killer they were being watched now. The system didn't joke around forever though. After your third murder, you got hit with the full punishment. No more exceptions. For the second murder, you might get away with it if the system thought you weren't really responsible, like some kind of murder court, but still people wanted to be murderers. Why? For the points, the stat boosts, and sometimes to steal the other guy's special powers. Plus, there were new skills and abilities you could only get after a certain update, and that made the killer life look pretty tempting. I mean, for some people, not me, bro. But nothing's ever just good. There were hidden traps. If you became a murderer, you had to keep killing, or else. And if 3 or more players met up, the system forced everyone into a deathmatch, even if they didn't want to fight. How crazy is that? And boom, a barrier would trap everyone inside. Then, it was fight or die. There was this one time, a bunny-eared tough guy and a muscle dude were standing there, ready to rumble. In the early game, this situation might seem advantageous for the murderer. But dude, in the late game, almost everyone was a pro, so being a murderer was like drinking poison. Not smart. Normally, if you became a murderer, you'd feel your heart pounding like a drum. But our boy? He stood there, hand on his chest, and felt nothing. As he had predicted, the system hadn't kicked in yet, because it was still before the apocalypse tutorial started. So, for a few hours, Seong-ho could technically kill people, and nobody would stop him. Not a great look for humanity, but that's the rule. Our hero looked at the bodies of the 2 losers from earlier and thought to himself that this wasn't a game, and maybe he was going nuts. But he decided not to overthink it. He told himself to stick to the plan and keep his one iron rule. Fight unfairness with unfairness. If someone messed with him, he'd give it right back, times 10. He finished up by throwing the loot to the dimensional gate and shutting it behind him. He told himself that if he killed people from now on, it would only be for that moment, no more, no less. Cold, but you could tell he meant business. Then our protagonist was out in the city again, standing on a rooftop, looking pretty pissed. It was 4:30 p.m. He thought it was smart to stop by the heavy equipment place and the pesticide shop, but now there were zombies everywhere, all hanging out by the main entrance, like they owned the place. Inside the building, things were getting even messier. Some guys are fighting and arguing. The leader, this dude in a red hoodie, waved a crossbow and told the spiky-haired guy to get out. But Spiky wasn't having it. He said they couldn't go outside because of the zombies and called out the hoodie guy for being an idiot. Red Hoodie lost his cool and threatened to shoot. Spiky just laughed and told him to go ahead if he was so tough. The Red Hoodie guy was actually fired, shooting that guy in the shoulder. Blood everywhere, screaming, everyone freaking out. The girl panicked, asking if Spiky was okay, calling him honey. Spiky guy, bleeding but not backing down, called Red Hoodie insane. The couple just stood there, acting all smug and talking about survival of the fittest. He warned them to get out before he aimed for their heads, then he and his friend started to leave. Red Hoodie just laughed and acted as if he'd just solved all his problems. Seriously, what a clown. But Spiky wasn't done. He yelled back, making noise by hitting the door to lure the zombies, which made the Red Hoodie guy panic. Then, they heard a bunch of noise zombies on the move. He told his friends to run for it, and they bolted straight out the door. From his perch, Seong-ho watched the whole thing through his binoculars. He thought that Spiky was wild for acting like that. And if they ever met, he might even give the guy a present. Guess our boy likes people with guts. Seong-ho checked his supplies, wondering if he'd finished looting everything except for a couple more places. He looked at his blue portal, where his wolf pup Dingo was chilling inside. He had a little over an hour left before things got even crazier. He thought maybe he should skip the military building and just hit the studios, but that felt wasteful to him. That's when he turned to Dingo and asked to come with him. He told his dog it was his turn now, and Dingo barked, ready for action. Here's a question. Where do zombies really pile up early in the game? The answer was easy. Places with food, like big supermarkets. Most people avoided those, but someone with pro game hours saw it as a chance to power up fast and hit level 10 to open the shop. Seong-ho grabbed his gear, checked his helmet, and grinned a little. It was game time. He finished prepping everything, spreading oil in a parking lot full of vehicles. But he felt kind of weird about using so much oil, because after the wire disease outbreak, oil would be scattered on the road from the wrecked vehicles. Still, he figured it was worth it, good practice for Dingo too. He asked his puppy if he remembered their training, then pointed and told him to go. Dingo, dashing with full speed, charged into the crowd of zombies inside the supermarket. He barked and dodged, luring out zombies left and right. The place went wild, zombies growling, this dog leaping and weaving, zombies falling everywhere. Our MC watched all this and thought Dingo looked epic, like some action movie hero. He called him a genius in his head. Then, as planned, Seong-ho lit a lighter and tossed it straight into the room full of zombies. The lighter landed, and everyone looked up, just in time for the place to explode in a massive fireball. That was insane, bro. The game system popped up to say Seong-ho had hit level 11 and grabbed 116 points. He even unlocked a new trait in his dimensional slot. Looks like our hero really knows how to farm XP, with style. After setting fire at the supermarket, it was 5:40 p.m. Our hero rode his bike around the city. He looked around the empty street, then just flexed his power and opened a blue, glowing portal right in the middle of the road. You could tell he knew the wire disease would happen soon, so he made sure to lock the portal's location. Then, like it was no big deal, he pushed the motorcycle right through the portal and crossed into the other world. Kind of showing off at this point, honestly. Over in the other world, our protagonist switched into some new gear. This time he went full high-tech, a fancy white helmet and a black vest. No metal at all, he was not taking any risks. Even his helmet was made from some next-level stuff called UHMWPE, and the vest was aramid fiber, so he was basically a tank. At the training ground, which was about a kilometer away from his shelter, he finished changing and geared up with a heavy, blunt weapon and a little pouch. He checked his look and muttered that, even without the zippers and buckles, his new outfit felt pretty much the same. Our MC was just killing time now, waiting for something big. There were about 3 minutes left before something insane was supposed to happen. Seong-ho looked down at his watch and started to get a bit nervous. He remembered that his special trait wouldn't allow entry to the main game with all his stuff, but his crew, this poison toad named Jodok and his wolf Dingo, counted as possessions now. Bro had done his research too. He figured out both the zombie spores and this nasty wire disease spread through the air. Zombie spores took out humans, but the wire thing just destroyed anything metal. He was smart enough to pick a spot far away from his shelter and only surrounded himself with wood props. He thought to himself that if his gear melted, he would just have to haul ass back home. Right at that moment, he held a metal ball for testing, took a deep breath, and told himself to focus. He raised his hand, said the command, and boom, a blue portal appeared right in front of him. Things were about to pop off. The city was holding its breath until the destined hour of 6 p.m., and then the wire disease landed in Korea. At first, it looked like nothing happened, but then cracks started to tear through the city like glowing red lightning. Buildings rusted and crumbled, cars fell apart, and everything went straight to hell. This virus, which gamers called the Metal Plague, just nuked civilization back to the Stone Age in literally a blink. Crazy, right? From the other world, our hero was watching, totally tense. Suddenly, a giant explosion rocked the city, a real what the hell moment. Even Seong-ho had to flinch and curse. He guessed maybe the army's ammo depot blew up, but then remembered the only thing that mattered was his secret item, a metal ball he was holding. He checked and saw it survived, so he let out a sigh of relief, but then got all serious again. Like, sure, the ball was fine, but could you even call this good when the whole world just melted? He closed up his blue portal and decided to stick to the plan. He walked back to his shelter, thinking he just needed to prepare, even if everything felt pretty hopeless. But hold up, the apocalypse wasn't the only thing waiting for him. When he got to his bunker's entrance, some little beetle creatures were already there, each with a weird-looking root on its back. The poor guy looked at them like, "Bro, are you seriously back here to steal again?" The leader, Red Beetle, handed him a root, and Seong-ho was like, "What the hell? Is this a gift or are you trying to trade for more sweet potato jelly?" Even though he was trying to be nice, he kind of lost his patience and told the beetles they were really pushing their luck. But then, get this, he called them cute. Even our tough MC had a soft spot. He tried to explain that, honestly, he didn't care about food. He wanted strange or rare items instead. But no matter what he said, the beetles just stared at him, totally confused. He gave up, sighed, and sat down. These little guys might be smart, but there was no way they could really talk, right? Then, plot twist, a red beetle stood up and picked a wooden stick, then drew the transaction scheme on the ground. Our boy was so shocked he almost fell over. He wondered if the beetle was actually asking for a trade, or for jelly, right here, right now. Seong-ho got excited and reached out, but the beetle got spooked and slapped his hand. The boss beetle made some funny noises, and he apologized for being too fast. After a couple more beetle squeaks, Seong-ho just decided that, sure, this was a deal. Suddenly, a blue system window popped up, saying he had successfully communed with the black beetle swarm. The boss beetle wanted a contract, which was pretty wild. Our boy thought it was weird, since for his other pets, things just ended at successful communion. He realized that maybe really smart animals needed contracts instead of being claimed. The system asked him to sign, and when he saw the contract, dude thought it looked weirdly official, but he had nothing to lose. He signed. The contract said the beetles would bring rare ores and strange stuff, and Seong-ho would trade them sweet potato jelly. As long as he didn't hurt the beetles, they counted as his possessions. Pretty sweet deal, honestly. Right after signing, the system told him the beetle swarm was now officially his. He was still trying to process what just happened when the beetles scurried off to start searching. He called them back, saying, "Hey, you came here for food, right?" He handed out some packs of sweet potato jelly as a signing bonus, and the beetles grabbed them like they just won the lottery. Then, our MC got really serious and told the beetles they better not just eat and run, he wanted those rare items. He even said if they tried to ditch him, he'd ignore the whole apocalypse and chase them to the ends of the earth. Insane, right? But then he just grinned and cheered them on. That's our hero for you, one part apocalypse survivor, one part jelly dealer, and somehow the boss of a beetle gang now. What a life. After making friends with little beetles, our MC was back at it, grinding through this brutal game world. The tutorial phase? Yeah, it always started at night, when everything was extra creepy and dark as hell. The poor guy figured he had about 2 or 3 hours to do whatever before things got really wild, so instead of chilling out, he kept moving, packing up all his scavenged loot on a table. Dude had snacks, drinks, bandages, even some nice extras like matches and a ceramic knife, stuff that definitely wasn't junk. He thought these guys must have been way more loaded than he first guessed, especially since they had gear like that. He felt pretty pleased with what he found, but he knew he couldn't just sit still. He had to find out more about the gang's survivors, even scout their hideout, no matter what. Our protagonist finished sorting through all the gear, then plugged a scavenged PC tower and one of those NAS hard drives into his docking station. He started scanning through the data, hoping maybe he'd score something useful. What did he find? Bro, files stacked with a ton of media like game covers, music players, all sorts of random stuff. But just as he was about to quit searching, our boy found something he really wasn't ready for. When he checked one of the folders, he suddenly jumped. Was that Mi-kyung? On the screen was this promo photo of a woman who looked exactly like her, showing off in a stylish crop top and shorts. He wondered if she was actually an idol or something. Then he figured, honestly, someone who looked like her being just some regular person would probably be the real surprise. Our MC sat there thinking, but then decided it was better to just delete the file. He remembered how Mi-kyung acted back in the day at the salon and figured she probably wouldn't want that memory hanging around. So, he wiped it and said that was enough snooping. With that done, he focused on something way more exciting, checking out his new perks for hitting level 10. In full combat gear, our boy stared at his status screen and called up the shop window in his head. The prices were definitely different from what he remembered from his old days playing the game, but the shop still had all kinds of cool stuff. Guaca powder, luminous stone, sun apple juice, a mithril knife, and especially the ebony wood club. He looked over the shop list and picked out a couple of items by number. Right in his hands, a blue potion and a yellow crystal appeared, just like in the game. He figured, if things worked the same way here, maybe he could still use that old trick, the bug, that only worked during the tutorial. Next, he checked out his new bonus trait, Dimensional Slot. A blue window popped up, explaining the slot system. Basically, it was like having a special pouch that could hold up to 5 different things, and you could grab any of them instantly with a thought. Our hero was pumped. He started calling them out, Slot 1, Slot 2, all the way to Slot 5, and 5 glowing blue cubes floated around him. He thought this was insane. This meant he didn't have to lug all his gear around anymore or hide weapons with his portal trick. He could just stash it all in the slots. He loaded up all 5 slots, maxing them out, and thought this was the most busted, overpowered trait ever. He even explained to himself that scaling meant a skill that got super strong the longer you played. Before heading out, he told Dingo, his wolf pup, to keep an eye on the house while he was gone. Then, with a big blue portal swirling around his hand, he got ready to finish this annoying tutorial. Our hero jumped through the portal and landed in the middle of a totally trashed city. It was pitch black, with buildings falling apart everywhere. He looked up. Yeah, it was way too dark out here. He tried to use his moonlight and terrain sense skills to see, but it was useless. So, he pulled up slot 3 and grabbed something special, shade grapes, which would boost his night vision. He hadn't seen any more of these in this world, so he kinda wanted to hoard them for later, but he realized it was better to use them than to die because he couldn't see. He ate the grapes, and boom, his eyes started glowing freaky yellow, and suddenly, the whole ruined city lit up for him like it was daytime. He was impressed, saying he could see everything now. Helmet back on, he looked for somewhere safe to hide out for a bit, yellow eyes glowing through his visor. He climbed up a ruined building and checked out the zombie situation below. He remembered that, in this world, nobody was going to warn you when events started, except for the tutorial. Here, the start was announced by the arrival of a moving wall of zombies, which was honestly the most obvious warning ever. He told himself, there were 2 ways to trigger the zombie rush. First, getting spotted by a zombie. Second, picking up a special tutorial item. He moved carefully, then reached down to the safe building to spawn the item. He had to stare at a certain spot for a while. Then, snatch the weapon right before it finished appearing a bug that only worked during the tutorial. And it worked! A blue spiked club started to form, but before it finished, our boy grabbed it. There was a flash, and bam, he had the weapon. Even better, the same process let him clone a second identical club, which happened to be the premium version from the shop. That was just broken, bro. He double-checked the patch notes, but most of them were vague nonsense, except for one legendary change that made things way easier. He laughed, hearing the zombies getting louder and ready to chase him. He told the crazy horde to chill out, and figured even if he wanted to avoid them, there was no way. He was going to be stuck fighting these freaks for a while. Glass started breaking all around him, and zombies closed in. Our MC started smashing heads with the spiked club, and blood spurted everywhere. He said he was going to keep killing zombies until he was sick of it, because one way to clear the tutorial was just to wipe out every single monster on the map. But, if he didn't feel like a bloodbath, there was also the option to just break through the zombie wall and escape. He tried that for a second, running fast and swinging through the horde, but there are too many. He was annoyed and swore, realizing he couldn't just speedrun his way through like some insane gamer. But he shrugged it off. Didn't matter. His plan was always to hunt down the big boss and crush it anyway. So he got up, eyes glowing and ready, and sprinted off into the ruined city like a real apocalypse veteran, ready to end this damn tutorial. So, Seong-ho was running through the ruined city like a madman, not stopping even for a second. But don't get it twisted, he wasn't just running around for fun or looking for zombies to smash. Nah, he was hunting something serious, the boss monster. Only, you don't find that thing just anywhere. There's always some checkpoint you gotta hit in the tutorial area, and the boss only shows up if you march yourself right to that spot. So, our hero was cruising through this hellhole, his helmet on, eyes scanning hard, when the system suddenly warned him that his shade grape power was about to run out. Dude started running hastily while avoiding zombie attacks. He remembered that somewhere within a 3-kilometer radius from the start, there was always a checkpoint, a building with no zombies at all. Yeah, you heard right. Clean, untouched, totally safe. He spotted it, a big building shining like it didn't get the memo about the apocalypse. He wasted no time, jumped inside, and finally, for once, felt like he could chill for a second until the boss respawned. He took off his helmet and was about to head to the roof to check what kind of super zombie was spawning this time. But then, bam! He looked up and saw Mi Kyung staring down at him from the stairs, eyes wide as she'd just seen a ghost. She called out his name, all surprised, and bro, even our MC looked pretty shocked for a second. Next thing you know, they're talking in this safe zone. Seong-ho asked if everyone had made it out alive, and Mi Kyung said, "Yeah, thank God." Then, he wanted to know how the hell she ended up all the way over here. The girl explained that, no, it wasn't like they just ignored the guidebook or anything. It was just that Kyung-hoon, one of the guys, insisted they all stick together, and then, surprise, the zombies crashed their party. This obviously pissed off our boy. He couldn't help thinking that Kyung-hoon was a total troll who didn't even use the info he was given. He told Mi Kyung to listen up because things were about to get rough. He thought to himself that acting like a normal person instead of a player in this situation was just asking for trouble. He warned her that soon, a boss-level enhanced zombie would be summoned. Mi Kyung freaked out and asked if that was his plan, but he said nope, he just got dragged into all this mess because someone else caused trouble. She looked kind of embarrassed, but he didn't let it stop him. Seong-ho explained that when the boss is defeated, the wall of zombies breaks, and they stop attacking. One dude in a video even said that if you run or hide at that moment, you finish the tutorial. The lady asked when the boss zombie would show up, and the MC just said, soon. Guess what? Right then, a giant zombie exploded onto the scene, crackling with blue lightning, red tentacles coming out of its head. Honestly, it looked insane. Mi Kyung said it looked gross, and bro, she wasn't wrong. Then, Seong-ho asked her if she'd noticed anything weird happening to herself, and she was like, why would he ask that now? Our hero explained that zombies like this one could seal something, and Mi Kyung, looking nervous, tried to open her system window. But bam, red warning, her trait was sealed, just like he said. Seong-ho thought for a moment, then turned to her and asked if she still trusted him. Mi Kyung smiled and told him that, of course, she did. He already saved her more than once. He wanted to check one more thing. He asked if she still had all the items he sent her. She said yeah, everything was in her bag, including the flare. Good enough for him. He told Mi Kyung to run up to the roof and draw all the zombies' attention, while he'd take care of the boss. He put his helmet back on and got ready. But inside, our poor guy was kind of annoyed he'd come down like a pro. But now the boss zombie had this trait sealing effect, and that was a huge pain. He thought about how, in the game, traits didn't even exist, so monsters like this couldn't seal them. But now, in the real world, even monsters had new tricks. He figured if he'd known this would happen, and he would have loaded up his best gear differently. But then he noticed something weird. His additional traits weren't sealed. A bow appeared in his quick slot, and he realized maybe it was because this enhanced zombie was a lower level than him. So, some of his skills and items still worked. He called that good luck, finally. He loaded his bow, aimed, and thought if the boss was lower level, it probably wouldn't drop many good items. But whatever, he wasn't alone, so he had to play it safe. While Mi Kyung set off her flare on the rooftop and got a whole horde chasing her, yelling and pulling more zombies her way. Our MC watched all this chaos and thought, hey, at least this girl's good at getting attention. Suddenly, the system told him his strength went up by 1. Free stat point? Nice! He joked that maybe this fight was a fair trade after all. He aimed at the boss zombie, ready to pay it back with a one-shot kill. He fired, and his arrow shot out, hitting the zombie in the right chest. The monster screeched, blood flying everywhere, but it wasn't dead yet. Seong-ho grumbled that his aim was a bit off because of the bad visibility. So, he couldn't get the one-turn kill. No big deal though. He pulled out his spiked mace, leaped down, and smashed the zombie's head open with a brutal swing. The thing finally dead. Goodbye, boss zombie. Right away, he saw that his trait was back to normal, and he got 10 points from the system. He checked around for any loot, thinking the boss was too weak to drop anything cool. But wait, he found something, a bracelet called the Roboton bracelet that gave +2 perception. Not bad. Seong-ho noticed there were 2 of them, and was just about to figure out why. When Mi Kyung shouted his name from across the area, she ran over, all excited, saying the trait seal was gone, so she took care of the leftover zombies and hurried back. Then the system told him he got another 17 points. Looked like some new reward system from the latest patch. Seong-ho thought that was probably from finishing the tutorial in a new way. He turned to Mi-kyung and held out the bracelet for her. She tried to say she didn't deserve it, but our hero insisted. He put the bracelet on her wrist himself, telling her that, honestly, they only cleared the boss because of her help. And with that, our boy was ready for the next step, maybe hitting up the fitness club to check on his buddy, or whatever the apocalypse threw at him next. Anyway, now, outside this busted-up building called Oh Hyungjun Fitness Club, our boy was geared up like he was going to war, helmet, tactical gear, the whole 9 yards. Next to him, Mi-kyung rocked a pink hat and a backpack, looking up at the building with him. She told Seong-ho that the place looked kinda tilted, and he agreed, saying it was definitely leaning. The poor guy was giving some safety advice, explaining that from what he saw in videos, usually up to 11 or 5 floors were okay, but it was best to get out before things went sideways. He kept walking up the sketchy stairs with her and said if a building was leaning like this because of bad construction, it could fall down any second. She just told him she'd let the gym owner know. Our MC kept going, about to talk more about the so-called killer system, when, suddenly, a voice came from above. Hyungjun, the coach, was standing at the top of the stairs, looking big and strong, arms crossed like some boss in a video game. He said he knew Seong-ho would survive. Then Mi-kyung lit up, calling out to the coach like everyone's favorite student. Our boy grinned, happy the coach hadn't turned into zombie food. The coach teased him, saying that he should try saying something nice for once. Then told the two to come inside. He had a lot to say, and even dropped that Yoo Hyun was there, and make them both happy and shock. Inside the gym, it was a mess, but that didn't stop the group from getting together. Yoo Hyun, this wide-eyed young guy, couldn't believe what he'd heard. He asked if it was true that Seong-ho really beat a tutorial boss that could copy other people's traits. Our protagonist tried to act cool, saying it wasn't a big deal and that he only went one-on-one because Mi-kyung distracted the other zombies. The wide-eyed guy was clapping like he was some kind of superhero, calling him brave and amazing. Our hero just laughed it off. Then he switched topics, asking if Hyungjun or Yoo Hyun got any special items after the tutorial. The coach said no, and said they just got the standard club, and there weren't even those safe checkpoints that he mentioned before. The coach looked confused and grumbled that there wasn't a single place without zombies, wondering what was up with that. Meanwhile, our MC was lost in thought, thinking, maybe the tutorial changed its rules depending on the player's level. Maybe you had to do harder stuff to earn rewards. So, he asked if anyone got points without killing monsters. The coach said his points went up when he helped Yoo Hyun. And he jumped in, saying it happened when the coach saved him from a zombie. Then our boy put the pieces together. Maybe you got points for escaping after being spotted, or for helping someone out. Mi-kyung got excited, saying maybe now it was easier for people who didn't like fighting to score points, and he confirmed she was right. But then, the coach got serious, wanting to know what Seong-ho's trait was. The poor guy was caught off guard, asking where that question even came from. The coach wasn't letting him off, saying not to play dumb. He pointed at him and explained that the system gave out traits right when the tutorial started. Inside, our boy realized he basically got a special prize for waking up first. Then he wondered if everyone who survived turned into awakened. Now, he looked back on all the rules and thought it kinda sucked, since the info he had from survival life wasn't always right anymore. Unlike the others who got nothing during the tutorial, he started thinking about Mi-kyung, since she actually did get an item. He was curious what was on her mind. Now it was time for the trait show and tell. The coach flexed a bit and said he got physical enhancement, which just made him even stronger and faster. Yoo Hyun, acting proud, said he'd been a doll maker from the start. He could control and see through dolls with his mind. Mi-kyung flashed a peace sign and said her trait was blink. Yep, the teleporting move. Now, our hero felt the pressure. His friends were all being honest, and he thought maybe he should finally confess his real power. But he didn't know how they'd react, so the poor dude decided to stick to the plan and not spill everything yet. The first time he can reveal his real trait should be when he met friends he can trust unconditionally and who can pace with his growth. At the moment, he processed his thought. Mi-kyung whispers something to the coach. Just right then, our boy told them he had awakened too, but lied and said his trait was attack prediction. Yoo Hyun's jaw dropped, thinking that meant Seong-ho could never get ambushed. Our hero explained it wasn't as cool as it sounded. He just saw the monster's attack path before it happened. Wanting to move on, he asked about the gym party's next plans. The coach looked ready for war, saying he'd wait for 2 more people to show up, but his main goal was to survive and grind levels. He thought opening the shop and auction house was most important, and added that if he ever saw the jerks from the villa who tried to hurt Mi-kyung, he'd crush them. Not gonna lie, the coach looked pretty scary right then. But honestly, good for him. Our boy, think. By looking his spirit, giving that info was definitely worth it. Yoo Hyun suddenly interrupted, wanting to know his level. Our protagonist was caught off guard again, wondering why Yoo Hyun cared. that guy kept pushing, saying Seong-ho must have been hunting zombies since the world went crazy, so they must be have difference level. But before our boy could answer, the coach suddenly grabbed and shook Yoo Hae-yeon by the neck. The coach was not having it. He yanked him away and demanded to know why he'd ask something like that. Seeing what he have done his level, probably around level 4, Yoo Hyun gasped, saying he couldn't breathe, and the coach looked at Mi Kyung for backup. She tried to play along, giving this awkward thumbs up and saying, yeah, she was only level 2, so Seong-ho had to be about level 4. She kept looking at him, hoping he'd help, and he just went along, acting super awkward. Inside, our MC realized his friends were trying to cover for him, so he wouldn't feel weird. They even knocked Yoo-hun out, which was pretty wild if you ask me. Anyway, Seong-ho got up to leave, saying it was late and have to go. The coach called out to him and handed over a bag with plastic binoculars and snacks that Yoo Hae-yeon had made. Our boy asked if it was really okay to take them, and the coach said, hell yeah, after all the help he had given. Then, out of nowhere, the coach got real and asked if he'd ever told our boy why he split with his wife. He was surprised. The coach always said it was too embarrassing to talk about. But now the coach started telling the story, flexing his arms, and saying it was all because he was afraid of losing muscle. Apparently, he used to fake eating with his wife, so obsessed with muscle loss that it became a big problem. The coach looked pretty down, admitting it with a sigh. Then he said the real message, though, was that everyone has things they don't want to talk about, big or small, and that you could share when you felt ready, just like he was doing now. Our hero listened to all this and realized the coach and Mi Kyung kinda knew he was hiding something. But for now, talking time was over. Before our boy could leave, he grabbed the coach's hand, serious this time, and told him the level gap would close eventually. If Hyungjun just kept going, he'd get stronger. Our boy asked him to stay alive, so one day they could all be together again, feeling all those emotions. Then, he said goodbye, walked away into the shadows while his friends watched. Inside, he thought to himself that he'd stop by from time to time. Anyway, now, in Otherworld, our MC was standing in a crazy snowy world, rocking an orange jacket, and you could actually see his breath in the air. He was looking around, just shocked, thinking the reality was hot as hell. But suddenly, it's snowing in the Otherworld, and now here he was, shoveling snow. He asked himself if this made any sense at all, and honestly, no, it did not. But our boy remembered that he already put all his food and gear into storage. He thought that if he hadn't, he would have totally been screwed. Still, he figured it wasn't all bad, since the snow and ice basically made his place stronger. He had a wall of ice spikes and barbed wire, so he didn't need to worry about goblins showing up for at least a few days. Then, our MC looked at his excavator, but that thing was frozen solid too. He had planned to dig a moat, but now, with the ground like steel, that was just not going to happen. Instead, our hero decided it was time to get his head together and plan his next moves. He tried to stay positive, even in this crazy place, with the bright snow all around. Then, boom, the words survival life flashed like blood on a wall. Well, this game was all about one thing, surviving. The rules were simple. You could only carry 5 items and 10 skills. And if you went over, the oldest skill got replaced. Honestly, that rule sounded like pure pain. You had to be the top dog, and you had to play dirty if you wanted to win. But that was just the way the game worked. In the real world, things always got messy. There were always zombies everywhere now. And everyone knew something big had changed recently, but nobody really knew what. Song-ho thought, even if he didn't know every new rule, his main goal was still the same: get gear, get better powers, and survive. He hit up his storeroom, looked at his supplies, and figured he just needed to keep doing what worked. He grabbed some gloves and a watch, put them on, and started smiling to himself. On his map, he circled the forest and the valley, thinking how he still needed to finish his moat and take care of that huge owlbear monster in the other world. In the real world, he had to go collect fireworks and keep an eye on some jerks at the villa. But wow, bro, the to-do list just kept growing and growing. The memories shows there were strong dudes, weird girls with cat ears, lightning, and so much chaos that our MC just wanted to pull out his hair. He decided to just stop, overthinking it, and focus on the next step. So, for now, his plan is, once the clock hit midnight and the zombies passed out, he would head out to grab those festival fireworks. He looked at his wall of guns and told himself to just get ready and stick to the plan. Okay, now, things went off the rails fast. Out on a street under a purple sky, a guy was annoyed because he had to deal with trashy people again. Across the street, there was this Kim Chel-chun with a spiked bat, yelling at his own dude for not being able to open a jerry can. The poor guy tried to protest, saying he was the smart type, but Catman didn't care. He just wanted to hit things. The orange-haired woman tried to cool him down, saying they should just go home and drink, but Kim Chel-chun was not listening. Then, he started talking crazy, saying if Seong-ho survived and had powers, they should take him out as soon as possible. Yeah, this guy was obsessed. Meanwhile, our MC was watching all this from the shadows and couldn't believe Kim Chil-chun was still out to get him. He saw the orange-haired woman getting ready with a Molotov cocktail and thought maybe these fools were planning to burn his house down. He decided right then he wasn't going to give them another chance. He'd raid their hideout before grabbing fireworks. Then he walked right up to them, totally calm. Kim Chil-chun was surprised and asked what on earth he was doing outside. Our MC just shrugged, saying he was going out the back to farm fireworks because zombies went to sleep at midnight. He even explained that as long as you avoided monsters called keepers and creepers, you were safe. Capman tried to act smart, saying those monsters only showed up if your level was 7 or higher, but he was only level 5, so there was no problem. Our boy gave him credit for studying, but then he dropped a bomb. What if the info that he got from Oh In-hak was wrong? It made him got nervous, asking what that meant, but Seong-ho just smiled coldly and said, never mind. He had changed his plans thanks to Capman, and now he was going to attack their base first. Now, he freaked out, thinking Seong-ho was insane, and told his crew to attack. But right then, things got will. A monster called a keeper showed up, huge and purple, with scary eyes and claws. Our boy start running, and Capman and the others following behind him, both glowing blue from their powers. Kim Chil-chun was desperate, thinking maybe if he caught both Monster and Seong-ho, people would stop calling his trait garbage. But nope. The next thing you knew, the guy in yellow shirt suddenly crashed into blue walls made by our hero in front and made his face down on the ground. Bloody, totally out of the game. Capman and the orange-haired woman ran past him, panicked, while the keeper monster went right for the body. Then, he split up with the woman, both running different ways. But suddenly she was confronted with a huge skull monster and screamed for help. Capman looked back, horrified. And then a huge explosion of fire went off, blasting him to the ground. The keeper monster loomed over him, and he thought to himself that this was just pointless. But the dude wasn't done yet. He tried to get up, shouting that he wasn't going down so easy. Too bad. The monster went in for the kill with its giant tongue. He just stared up, realizing how pointless it all was. And then, splat, that was the end of his story. Meanwhile, our MC stood in the distance with a gun, just watching the scene. In front of him, he activated the invisible wall with blue energy. He was actually grateful that the monster had helped him out so much, and he appreciated Chil-chun still landed a hit on his way down. After all that, he holds a weapon that looked insanely powerful. He decided it was time to finish things off. Now, he fired a crazy bright yellow beam, straight at this monster called a keeper. The keeper looked rocked, staggered back, a green wound on its purple skin. But, bro, it just wouldn't drop. Our MC muttered that, judging by how the thing was just wobbling and not collapsing, his bullets must be turning to dust way faster in reality than he thought. The monster's claw twitched, but it still wouldn't fall. He said fine, it wasn't like there was no damage, so he just kept blasting it, bullet after bullet, until finally, the thing hit the ground for good. When it was all over, Seong-ho stood there, breathing hard, looking at the gross mess of green blood. He admitted to himself that killing like this was not fun at all. But then, bam, system messages popped up all blue and glowy, telling him he'd leveled up to 12, got 20 points, a new skill called terrain detection, and that his overlapping skills were even better now. Not bad, right? Looking around at all the dead bodies, our poor guy thought, whether you accept it or just do it by accident, killing a person still counts as killing. He nudged Kim Chil-chun's stuff with his foot, telling him not to be too salty about it. Basically, he said, trash just got tricked by more trash and died for it. Savage. But he wasn't wrong. Then he just walked away, leaving all that drama behind. After that, the early morning farming mission went smooth as butter. So, first stop was Kim Chil-chun's hideout at a big, fancy villa. Inside, he found supplies everywhere. Boxes, gear, all sorts of loot. He told Dingo, his good dog, that it wasn't what he expected, but there was plenty of stuff here that would sell great in the auction house later. He also thought, honestly, that Chil-chun probably would have died on his own, even if he never showed up, since the dude just had cigarettes and alcohol everywhere. Not exactly survival material. Later that night, our MC and Dingo made it over near Gwangali, hitting an industrial area with stacks of crates. He cracked one open and, jackpot, there were fireworks inside, the exact stuff he wanted for the festival. He totally loved it. With the dog helping out, sniffing around, and leading the way, they managed to slip past all kinds of monsters. They carefully dodged a weird, stretched-out zombie and a freaky skeleton thing, taking out sleeping zombies one by one. That made leveling up super easy, bro. Our boy checked his stats and was stoked. Level 14, a ton of points, buffed up health and skills, even a special trait for dimensional travel. Dingo barked, like he was proud, too. But, of course, there's always a catch. After finishing his farming by 7 a.m. and standing in a street full of dead zombies, He realized that moving all his supplies back and forth was killing him. He grumbled that hauling stuff twice was just brutal. And, with the other world being stuck in winter, it made everything worse. He thought about storing stuff somewhere else, but if even a small spark set it off, the whole shelter would blow. Plus, storing things on the ground would bring in moisture problems. So, in the end, his spot was still the safest choice. With his notebook in hand, our MC planned his next route. He wanted to check on the villa district to see if Suyun was alive, plus a time shelter nearby, and some guy's golf course hideout. But before he could move, boom, loud crashing noises started up. He spun around, totally shocked, and saw rain pouring down outside, thunder and lightning everywhere. He was like, what the hell? Where did this storm even come from? So, for 2 whole days, while a typhoon smashed the real world, he just focused on building a moat in the other world. He figured it was too risky to move around, with the cold still hanging around. By the time he finally finished digging, man, he looked destroyed. He swore to himself he'd never do that again. Luckily though, the weather finally warmed up, and all the ice started melting off his barbed wire fences. The other world turned bright, sunny, and finally felt a little bit human again. Our MC was just happy he could breathe for once, even if he had no right to complain. Then, he peeked into his blue glowing portal, checked out the storm still raging on the other side, and figured the other Awakeners were probably stuck somewhere, unable to move because of the typhoon. That gave him a head start, so he got ready for his next plan. Soon enough, Seong-ho and Dingo were out in the forest. He mentioned something random. Firearms were like cheat codes in survival life. Not because they were special or anything, but because guns were supposed to be late-game weapons, only available after some wire disease ended, and only if you farmed hard for them. He was feeling pretty serious, because not only did Dingo help him figure out the best routes, but his perception stat had gone way up from wearing his fancy watch, and his terrain detection skill hit level 2. He crept through the forest, and that's when he spotted it, the infamous owl bear. This giant, angry bear owl beast was chilling in a river, looking super dangerous. Now, he thought it was totally insane that he even needed to fight this thing. But hey, that's his life now. He petted Dingo for good luck, and thanks to his new skills, the owlbear couldn't even sense him. He checked his ammo, only 15 bullets left. He figured he'd need at least 7 shots to take down the beast, even with fresh bullets that weren't ruined by the wire disease. Since he couldn't get more bullets right now, he carefully aimed for max efficiency. He took his shot, nailing the owlbear right in the head. Green blood splattered everywhere, and the thing freaked out, roaring so loud the trees shook. It tried to find who attacked it but had no clue where Seong-ho was. Then, our guy pumped more bullets into its back, and the beast just lost it, crashing to the ground, still writhing and pissed off. He calmly thought that, now, they were finally at eye level. It was time to end this. Now, with blue energy crackling around him, he grinned and called the monster an owl brain. The owlbear tried to get up, eyes all red and angry, but Seong-ho was just getting started. He equipped his slots 1 and 2, and summoned a lightning bomb, then tossed it at the monster. Then equipped his shield, while the bomb exploded in the air, so bright. Our boy figured, even if that monster was a higher species, if you have an owl's head, you're gonna be weak to light too, right? As the finishing blow, he summoned a new weapon and attacked the owlbear again, green blood splattering everywhere. Finally, the system told him he got 25 points and hit level 15. He got a new skill, Silent Movement, and his trait got a bonus too, Dimensional Slot Plus. This was kinda awesome. From here, he could equip 10 items in his slot. The system also explained that soundless movement would make him super quiet, which sounded awesome for sneaking around. To be honest, our MC just felt like the skill and the new effect were sort of underwhelming. Still, he figured owlbear claws would sell for a ton as weapons, so he wasn't complaining too much. With a little smirk, he said he might as well get every bit of loot he could out of this thing. Standing on top of the monster, glowing chainsaw in hand, our hero got ready to harvest his prize. That's just how Seong-ho rolls, bro. Never let anything go to waste in the apocalypse. Anyway, now, he started the day living his best apocalypse life. Just chilling in the other world, cooking up some meat over a tiny campfire. Dude looked so satisfied biting into that food. Dingo, his loyal dog, was right next to him, eyes locked on the meat like it was made of gold. Dingo started barking like he hadn't eaten in a week, which made our MC sigh. He told Dingo, honestly, the dog had already eaten 5 pieces and was still begging for more. But what could he do? He just called Dingo a little punk and handed over another bite. Dingo went at it, happy as ever, while our hero petted his head and told him to eat up and grow strong, since they'd need to pull off some crazy combo moves together, or maybe Dingo could even go solo someday. Seong-ho looked at Dingo and realized, the little dude really had gotten a bit bigger. The dog was busy gnawing on a grilled fish, probably feeling proud. After they finished eating, our MC stood up and waved for Dingo to follow. He said, since they were full, it was time to keep moving. The first thing on his list was unlocking a new feature for hitting level 15, the auction house. Out in the open, he saw a cool, see-through purple screen pop up in front of him. It said, auction house, and had options to list or retrieve items. He noticed a message about a 10% transaction fee. That annoyed him. He remembered the game only charged 5%. He called it a straight-up ripoff. Then he clicked the Retrieve Item button and the screen switched to show an auction. Someone had already listed an old ebony club with a starting bid of 10 points and a buy now price of 100, with 20 minutes left on the clock. He thought it was weird someone had something up for sale already, but he told himself to calm down. In his head, he figured if that person was any kind of gamer, especially with a combat skill, maybe they were even higher level than him, even though he wasn't a combat guy himself. The interface let him view comments too, and he saw a few. One person complained nobody had bought it yet. Another whined they might have leveled up too fast. Someone else bragged that today's goal was to beat up a keeper, then ended it with XS. Reading that last part, Seong-ho thought he knew who it was. Only one person added XS to every sentence, so needy for attention. Well, in survival life, anonymity was highly valued. As a result, players could customize not only gender, but also their voices. And aside from global chat where ID were shown, there was no way to obtain information about others unless they revealed it themselves. Our boy thought. Now, the problem is, the more veteran players pile up, the less they follow the developer's intended direction. Especially this person, who keeps adding XS at the end. Attention seekers. Among attention seekers, just then, someone in the auction chat said, "Hi." He replied with a simple, "Hi." A message popped up from Rabbit Princess, asking who he was, and introducing themselves right away. Our boy had to laugh at that personality. Hyper online, just like in real life, apparently. He introduced himself as Gimbop, lover. While he waited for a reply, our boy wondered if maybe Rabbit Princess was getting suspicious, but soon enough he sent a crazy long laugh. Then yelled that they trusted Gimbop Lovernim, and even asked if he knew how long they'd waited to meet him. They also guessed Seong-ho was with the president right now, probably because of some flyers passed around during Doomsday. Then our boy answered that he was acting alone, and Rabbit Princess said he met with him after seeing the filers distributed on Doomsday. Now, our boy replied, yes, he did share some information with the government, but it was more like advice. And it seemed like someone who knows a lot about Sura was involved. And he wasn't keen on revealing his trait either. Then Rabbit Princess said that made sense. If you weren't a combat type, showing off your trait was basically asking to die. Our MC smiled, thinking he totally got him. Rabbit Princess then offered to share their own trait and asked if our hero wanted to hear it. He acted surprised, asking if that was really okay. But Rabbit Princess said of course, since they would be teaming up anyway. That put Seong-ho on edge. But Rabbit Princess just dropped the bomb. His trait was Resurrection, and as long as he had points, he could use it forever. Our MC nearly fell over in shock. He added he was already level 17 and now had all kinds of resistances, physical, elemental, and more. He even showed his stats, which were pretty stacked. Then he told our boy to share his trait too. But our MC hesitated. He told him he couldn't just spill his secrets right away. That made Rabbit Princess flip out, wondering why not. Seong-ho explained he had trust issues. Serious enough that he didn't even tell close, real-life friends about his abilities. He said it wasn't about him specifically, but he'd rather meet up and talk face-to-face first. Rabbit Princess said he understood, at least a little. Then, he told Seong-ho to check the auction house one more time. Our boy was confused, but his buddy told him to hurry. When our MC looked again, he saw the magic metal ring up for sale for only 10 points, a ring that boosted both health and strength. It sparkled with magic and was the kind of thing that would sell for a ton, especially right after the tutorial. Rabbit Princess said he'd searched everywhere to get it and wanted Seong-ho to have it for just 10 points. He was stunned. He asked why Rabbit Princess would just give away something this valuable. The guy just threw another excess his way, telling him to take it. He wanted to prove he was sincere and could be trusted. Now, our hero could hardly believe the amount of goodwill coming at him. He remembered they'd always been close in the old game, fighting monsters and surviving together, but this was more than he expected. He figured the best thing he could do was show trust, too. So, he listed some of his rare loot in the auction, an owlbear claw and some smoked fish. Rabbit Princess totally lost it, saying, "This stuff was incredible." Our boy pointed out that he remembered he liked grilled fish as snacks and animal claws as weapons. Then, Rabbit Princess saw the monster parts and freaked out even more, guessing monsters were already showing up in Busan. Seong-ho explained it was a side effect of his trait and he meant the loot as a sign of trust. Rabbit Princess went wild, calling it insane and dropping another XS. Our boy, though, had something else on his mind. he sent a message telling him that if they ever met up in real life, he needed to wear real clothes and please, seriously, stop saying XS all the time. Our boy said he didn't want anyone staring at them out in public. Meanwhile, Rabbit Princess, in his apartment with nothing but boxers on, replied that XS was his whole identity when nobody knew who he was. But, fine, when he was with Seong-ho, he'd switch it to JYAS instead. And as long as he was alone, going around nearly naked was totally fine for him. Our MC could only shake his head. He realized, no matter what, Rabbit Princess was always going to be a little extra, changing catchphrases, new word or not, and still running around in his underwear half the time. After finishing the chat with Gimbap Lover, he finally ate a solid meal, a proper grilled fish, eyes closed, looking so happy he could cry. Maybe it was a coincidence, but just as he finished, the typhoon outside stopped and warm sunlight filled the room. He basked in it, wondering if it was a divine sign, or if his best friend, the last man standing from the game, had finally become some kind of god. Whatever it was, the dude jumped right out the window in his underwear, ready to go meet his friend. He landed with a huge crash, right on top of a zombie's head, then started blasting other zombies away with his polearm, laughing like a maniac. He yelled out his signature attack, Giant Swing, and sent zombies flying everywhere. But bro, there was one big problem. As he stormed the streets in just his boxers and backpack, Rabbit Princess stopped, looked around, and realized he was back at his own hideout. The guy was totally hopeless at navigation. So, it had already been 3 days since that crazy typhoon finally ended. The sky was looking clear for once. And even a paper airplane was flying around like everything was totally normal. But dude, the city was still a zombie playground, with those losers stumbling around, confused as ever. Meanwhile, Song-ho's old gym crew was actually figuring out how to survive. Yoo-hyun, the doll guy, hit level 5 and could launch those weird dolls way farther than before. Every time our MC got one of Yoo-hyun's paper airplanes, he'd check the note inside. The latest news? The gym squad had moved into a second-floor taekwondo studio near his house. Oh, and get this. Kyung-hoon and Bora apparently became a couple. The coach reached level 10, unlocked the shop, and was probably getting swole as usual. Whenever he got those notes, he helped them out by sending info about safe places he had already prepared. That way, his pals could go grind zombies and level up without dying like idiots. He thought his advice should be enough for now. Of course, our MC didn't forget to keep in touch with his other wild friend, Rabbit Princess, either. But, bro, that dude replied so slow, it made Seong-ho wonder what the hell he was doing all day. Turns out, Rabbit Princess was just out there punching the lights out of zombies with his bare fists and screaming about going to Busan. Typical. Now, our boy also noticed something that annoyed him. After you hit level 15, grinding got a lot harder. You needed double the experience for each level, so it was basically hell mode from here on out. Anyway, one day, our boy pulled up his glowing status screen just to check his stats. He was level 15, with a bunch of points and a nice stack of skills, like survival instinct and soundless movement. He figured out that for level 16, he'd have to kill around 100 zombies. Definitely possible, but only if he focused on hunting all the time. And honestly, the guy had way too much other stuff to do. Fast forward 2 hours, and our MC was in the other world, standing by this crazy big metal door with green vines all over it. Sunbeams were coming through, and golden dust floated around like magic. He looked down at his hand. He was holding a shiny blue knife. He started talking to these beetles that came up to him. Yeah, beetles. They handed him rare ore and showed off the fancy mithril knife. Song-ho thought it was pretty nuts and asked the beetles if they really made the thing themselves. The beetles all yelled, "Boo!" like they were super proud. Our boy was a little suspicious though. He wondered how a bunch of beetles could even make weapons like that. The red beetle looked up at him like, "Bro, just let us prove it." Seong-ho figured he'd give them a shot, so he handed over a gold coin and told them to craft something if they were really that good. The little red beetle jumped right into work and, not gonna lie, crushed it. He made a tiny golden knife that was way more detailed and shiny than the mithril one. Song-ho was pretty shocked, but then he got a bit salty, wondering why the mithril knife was so rough if the beetle could do this. Suddenly, the red beetle started looking all sad and even made a crying sound. The other beetles looked just as miserable. Our MC was like, "Whoa, are you guys actually crying right now?" That was awkward. He told them to chill out and show him what happened by draw it properly in the map. So the red beetle grabbed the marker and started drawing on a map. The story? A bunch of goblins kept showing up and beating the beetles up, so they couldn't do their crafts properly. Song-ho finally got it. No wonder the knives looked janky. The beetles were too busy getting wrecked by goblins. When he asked where the goblins lived, the beetle pointed at a spot on the map with lots of trees and red circles. Our MC said he'd wipe out the goblin nest soon, but only if the beetles did their part too. The red beetle looked pumped. drew a big 10 on cartoon Seong-ho's head, and everyone seemed happy with the deal. Our boy even offered up another job for the Beatles and promised a good reward. The whole Beatle crew started buzzing, totally ready to get busy. He grinned and told them to keep things friendly from now on. Later, our poor guy hauled a giant sack through the glowing dimensional gate with Dingo sitting nearby, looking cute as always. He realized these Beatles actually had some real leader skills, so he kept up his usual farming routine with Dingo by his side. He started to open the portal and come in with Dingo. But bro, zombies were getting nastier lately. Stronger, uglier, and meaner than the ones from before. Seong-ho had to work way harder just to smack them down. He beat them up with his old club until it finally started showing it was worn out. At this point, killing zombies was just a boring habit. His next stop was Eden Villa, a fancy apartment tower that looked totally wrecked. He was honestly amazed by how rich the place seemed, and he admitted he'd never set foot in somewhere like that if the world wasn't destroyed. But now, he had a different goal. He pulled out an ID card with the name Jo Soo-yeon on it, looking worried. He figured Soo-yeon was probably still alive. After all, the gym crew was still kicking, and people who met Awakeners didn't seem to get the zombie infection. So, Soo-yeon, who once shook his hand, should be safe. Still, there was a problem. Eden Villa was super close to a golf course bunker and a government time shelter, prime spots for survivors to gather and probably fight each other for food or whatever. Not exactly the chillest place to hang out. Then, our MC strapped Dingo to his back and climbed up a huge rope into the building. He was sweating and breathing hard, thinking that a regular person would have passed out by now. But he noticed the rope setup looked just like something Soo-yeon would do. He walked down a messy hallway, stopped at a door, Unit 302, and knocked. Suddenly, a woman inside started yelling that she told whoever it was not to come over. There was a murderer nearby. Seong-ho was confused, but then Soo-yeon peeked through the mail slot and recognized him. He laughed, said hi, and Dingo barked like a little goof. Soo-yeon at first looked super cautious, but she relaxed a bit. She asked what he was doing there. Our boy told her he came to collect the medicine money, just like before. She reminded him that he wasn't exactly normal himself, but then got serious and asked what she meant about a murderer. Then, she just told our boy to let him in first. This was going to take a while to explain. She opened the door and gave him a real smile, looking more relaxed. Her apartment was neat, even if the world outside was still a total disaster.